to you all. It's a wonderful occasion, sponsored by the Wollombi Valley Arts Council. I'm Claude Aliotti, representing the Arts Council, President. We are living in an area that could be the oldest library in the world. Tens of thousands of engravings and paintings and pieces of rock art in this area, the Wollombi, have carried an ancient law that Aboriginal elders say has been strictly maintained since humans started. Tribes from all over came here to meet and perform ceremonies, learn of their heritage and exchange goods. This library depicts all of these stories. As students, we don't have to go very far to be educated. We live in the library. Unfortunately, with the increase of population and ensuing development and mining, vandalism and bureaucratic bungling, we are facing the destruction of our library. I believe this library is of world heritage importance. It is now time that we, the community, play the part of protectors of this ancient knowledge. I encourage you to hear from our expert panel of speakers as to the reasons why. I would like to introduce to you Arthur Fletcher as a representative of our Aboriginal panel. He's a Wonnarua man. He lives in the Lake Macquarie Shire, and he is involved with work sites in the Middle Hunter, that being part of traditional Wonnarua land.
Good afternoon. First up, I'd like to do an acknowledgement of country of the traditional peoples of this area, and I pay my respects in that way. I would like to now, and I'll explain, of a minute's silence. A minute's silence is for our sick, that's everybody's, our departed, and just to spend a minute's silence, please. Now you can remain sitting if you wish, or you may stand. I'd like to do that now. So it's 1 minute's silence, okay? Thank you. Thank you. What I'd like to do now, just briefly, what we're about is coming together, caring and sharing about our needs within the Aboriginal and the wider communities to really, truly care, to be comfortable with each other and to get to know each other. I'm going to pass it back to Claude. Thank you.
Thank you, Art. Our first speaker for tonight is Gionni de Gravio. He's a senior archivist at Acknowledgment Library, the University of Newcastle. He has a Bachelor of Arts, Classics, and a graduate of Information Science, Archive and Records at Edith Cowan University. Mr. Gionni de Gravio.
If I'd listened to my father and became an opera singer, then I wouldn't have had the need for this microphone. Thank you very much. It's a great honour to be here at this very important gathering of Wollombi folk. I hope, sorry, I don't stand in front of the presentation. I'm Archivist at the University of Newcastle and I rarely get out. Okay? Which is sort of a bad thing. I'm usually directing people to information and paper records that are left by explorers in knowledge for people coming after. So on the rare occasions that someone does come and grab me and take me out, I'm very excited. So I'm glad that I'm first up because I'm probably the newest person to this whole experience. And I just wanted to share the experience of this region, given the lots of paper records that I hover around all day and connecting those two up. At the university, I kind of like, and I try to act as a catalyst to drag academics out of offices and into things as well. And we've got an ensemble at the university called the Cultural Working Party, which I just describe as a pirate ship that goes wherever it likes, does whatever it does, pinches people from whatever disciplines they like, students from whatever disciplines they like, for the express intention of raising awareness of the region's history and uncovering it, discovering more about it, opening discussions. I'll just see if, okay. So that's the web page of the Cultural Working Party, and what we do is we scan up lots of documents that we've got sitting in the archives relevant to things. This is on dreaming, so I've got hundreds and hundreds of documents relating to Aboriginal material that we've got that has been recorded through history for the last 200 years. This is an example of the sort of material that we have online, really large. This is Shortland's Eye sketch. The interesting thing about maps is that I can never have enough maps because all the published maps that you see all have certain amounts of things and there are some differences. This particular map comes from the Taunton Archives, which is like the Naval Archives. And the interesting thing about this map that isn't like the other printed versions is if you notice here, he marked where the natives were. There and there and there. Some of the other printed maps didn't record where the natives were. So we become very intrigued by maps and how some maps allow you to have some information and other maps don't. So we like collecting different types of maps. This is the Borrelia plan. This is another one that we had to track down overseas. Everyone's very familiar with this half of it, but the other half of it is not very familiar. And when we wrote to London to get the full thing, we thought these were two individual plans, and we thought to get them copied. We didn't realise it was a complete plan. So little discoveries like that are intriguing when you're trying to track down documents. Early paintings and engravings we're also interested in. As you can see, Aborigine speech are in them, and also the fires that they've got going around. There's another scene there, Aboriginal fires overlooking the island that was at the mouth of the Hunter. Because the Wonnarua Working Party was very focused on the top end of town until this year, and until Wollombi walked into our lives. Now we've just broadened ourselves to the entire region, being the pirates that we are. That's another beautiful nighttime scene that was painted by Joseph Lycett. Again, looking at that rock, Nobbies. The original name of that we also found in a Mitchell field book sketch. It was wonderful to see it written up there as Awabagal. That's another one there. This is Lycett, another scene. Those little figures there, when you blow them up, are Aboriginal people. And this little dot here, which is not on any of the published editions of this painting, is the government cottage where Threlkeld spent his first year. Threlkeld was one of the missionaries that came to Newcastle and recorded a whole lot of events at that particular location. I became very interested in that white dot of paint because my archivist said, oh look, you know, Lycett painted the government cottage where all this took place. And I said, oh, I had a look at all the pictures, and all the pictures basically didn't have it. It had the edge cut off. So we went into the Newcastle Region Art Gallery asking to see this bit of the painting. You see, obviously, whoever had taken the photo didn't like the crooked edges, so cut an inch off it and cut Threlkeld's little cottage off too. Because I knew so much about that little dot of paint. You know, I could just go into that dot of paint and tell you so many wonderful things that were recorded there, you know. How that was the edge of town, he witnessed an Aboriginal burial out there, all recorded, you know. So that dot of paint's very important. Okay, we start to come to Wollombi. Now I was told to give a sort of an overview of things, so I'll give you an overview. You might know some of this stuff already, but the birth of Wollombi for me was in Governor Macquarie's decision to have a settlement at Wallace Plains. So it was the drive to have a settlement at Maitland that instructed these various John Howe in an expedition to find a land route to Wallace's Plains, and that's where we start to have the beginning of Wollombi. So in 1819, Governor chose John Howe to lead an expedition. 1820, John Howe's second journey reached the Hunter River via Bulga and Cockfighters Creek. It's wonderful they named Cockfighters Creek after one of the horses. It's usually after a fella, but it's good to see a horse. 1823, road completed, known as House Valley Road. In 1825, surveyor Heneage Finch found the overland route from Wiseman's Ferry through Wollombi and Wallace's Plains. In 1827, work began on the Great North Road, and in 1831, the Great North Road was opened. So you start having people being able to get here. And that's a view of Maitland. Now I became very intrigued by an account by a Frenchman called Breton who came through in that period. So I'm assuming, even though his account says his travels between 1830 and 1833, I assume he travelled once the road was done. So we're looking at 1831, 1832. Breton's overall opinion of Aboriginal people was that he had little respect for them. As you can see his quote there, I entertain very little more respect for the Aborigines in New Holland than for the orangutan. In fact, I discover no great difference. Now that's pretty nasty when you think about it, but then when you read his text, there's this really interesting quote that had me laughing for a few minutes. And when they came through Wollombi, they started to collect, Aboriginal, 60 Aboriginal people followed them. And then he's got this quote here. Their manners are scarcely formed yet, if I may judge from the behaviour of one of them. He was trying to teach me the mode of throwing a spear, but observing me to be somewhat clumsy, he took it out of my hand, remarking at the same time, "Oh, you dumb stupid." Now I translate to be, are you that stupid? Are you that stupid? Or, are you damn stupid? This was not polite in the barbarian, but so long as the natives learn their English from the convicts, I fear we shall get no better language from them. I am not at all convinced that this black intended to make use of an improper expression. Now you can see why he compares them to orangutans, because he's a Frenchman trying to throw a spear. He looked like a clumsy idiot trying to do it. He's embarrassed in front of all these people, plus the party of 10. And so obviously had his nose out of joint. So he mentioned the 60 that accompanied. These people he mentions consisted of 2 tribes from Illarong. Does that ring any bells?
It's actually between Curry and the Illarong Road.
Oh, okay.
Between Curry and Maitland.
Yeah.
But
There we go.
that's the place.
Don't
I've
know.
not been able to track it down.
And the other belonging to Wollombi. And were on their way to wage war with another tribe. So Then he recounts a number of situations where Aborigines had wrapped this farmer up and left him on an ant nest. They did rescue him, but they then went and hunted them down and shot them. And then he's got this astounding quote from a Port Stephens settler, because you feel that even though he has no respect for them, he doesn't like the idea that they went around shooting them. And the Port Stephens guy said, "Oh, we used to shoot them like fun." Okay? So it's important to... He also describes a burial of Kamilaroi. Now this is not an engraving from him, this is from Jock Oxley, but the description is very strange, and it would be very interesting to know more about the native mode of burials in the mounds. Now I don't know anything about it, I don't know if any studies have been ever done about them, or whether you know of any in your local area or something that looks like that, but it's very, very interesting. I couldn't imagine how they did it, but he describes it very, very carefully. So with these white accounts, you don't know whether they're getting it third hand and what they're describing. I mean, you really need to examine it a bit more carefully. But he's describing that. All right, so we come out to Wonnarua one day, at the end of last month, and I saw Mount Yengo. So this is like going to be a part personal approach to this. The spirit hero at Flat Rock. That figure became very, very, made a great impression on me. Couldn't stop thinking about him. We also had the sky above us, which was just the most beautiful thing. It was just full of stars. And we kept looking at the flat rock and we kept looking up at the stars constantly, and both were sort of vying for our attention. There's a footprint there. I mean, some of this stuff, when we were photographing it, I mean, you can't barely see that, but that's the outline there. For me, it was difficult because I had the camera and I was trying to record this experience of what we're seeing, but I found that I just didn't have the camera skills to record this stuff as it's supposed to be recorded. I mean, it's not like going to a museum or, in our Western sense, going and seeing something. This was one of my attempts at night photography. Right? Because I was sitting there listening to these stories and watching this stuff and trying to adjust my camera so that I could fill it with light and take a picture, but it just looks like someone's on fire. This is another picture of the emu woman. I'll just show you these slides quickly. Here's another one. At night they just come alive. In reflection, in the reflection of a light lamp. That's that sky hero again. This mouth became very, very intriguing for me while I was looking up at the stars and looking at that mouth, and looking up at the stars and looking at that mouth. And I kept became very obsessed with Orion, because Orion was in the sky. And I got back and I thought, okay, well, look, he fits in, you know, he's got his boomerang hanging up there, he's got this elongated shape. I did this search on Google and pulled down Orion from Google and had a look at it, and I thought, no, there's something missing, I can't see his doodle. And I could swear that night I was looking at his doodle in the stars. And then it realised, because I had a picture that we've got it turned upside down. See, our Orion has to be turned upside down in order to be seen. So you've got the sky here. You can't really see him there, but I've tried to superimpose him. You can see his legs down there. These little cluster of stars there. You've got his boomerang going up. Regal and the star next to it basically formed his mouth. I couldn't stop looking at the stars, and I couldn't stop thinking about that sky hero. This is another figure that we saw, which was a little turtle-like creature in one of the engravings, which I couldn't, again, stop thinking about the Pleiades. The Pleiades are a series of 7 stars. I'd love to map that entire Finchley Park map reserve and just look at it and what connections it has with the sky. Because I just can't believe the sky wouldn't have featured in this. But anyway, that's, again, just a personal idea. I don't know if it's true or not. Then you've got Trace. And then you got these things that look like a tractor or bulldozer went over it. You know, someone said, oh, look at this, you know, these are engravings. Well, look, those engravings that we've been seeing, these are engravings too. And what we've got to ask ourselves is, what does those engravings here will tell people in 1,000 years' time about our culture? Well, these people were strange. They looked like they didn't have normal feet. They had these funny little jagged claws that sort of they must think we were like monsters. You know, metallic monsters that just carved up the landscape. Because this is what we leave here. We're to see ourselves in thousands of years' time. So we lie between the devil, okay? Everyone was quite upset with what the Taliban did to those beautiful sculptures. Right? They blew them up on national television when they had all these libraries around the world and museums pleading with them, please, we'll come and shift them to another place. But they just blew them up. You know, we've got this same sort of thing happening here. You know, it's such a precious place, and we've got to begin a discussion on what we're going to do. I think to look after it, so that we don't have this sort of thing going on. And then we've got the deep blue sea, and this was the other thing that came out about it was the digger grave that they found in Fromell. And this is an example of one of the Rising Sun collar badges from the soldier. And this was the lady, Madame Marie Paul Demassiette, upon whose land it was found. So, on her land, she found something that was very sacred to the Australian people. And she basically gifted it to us so that we could retrieve the Australian soldiers and bring peace of mind to our people. Now, while at Mount Yengo, again, I couldn't take a picture of this, but directly over Mount Yengo was the moon, quarter moon, and to the top was a very bright star, which was Venus. And, I mean, this has been created, but that's what it was like. It was absolutely magical. But I couldn't take a picture of it. I couldn't record it. You know, as we're getting taken around these rock engravings, I couldn't record those either. I could only hear them and see them. It was like watching the rock television, a different form of experience. So it's not just about experiencing this stuff, it's also how we're going to study it, how we're going to you know, nurture it. So the way forward, from the way I'm seeing, is that, you know, we would love the university to be much more involved with this area. We've started bringing up various academics and seeing whether we can put together some sort of research group that can look at this area and study it, you know. I picture like Mawson's Hut. We'll have Mawson's Hut out there and you just have these guys camped out there for like 9 months just studying it, you know. We need to have a look at the World Heritage listing because Mount Yengo and that whole area is all part of the Blue Mountains, but it's under natural. So it's on the World Heritage list, but for a natural reserve. So luckily, we have a conservator working with us at the moment who's Iranian, and he's also been, yeah, they're very nice people, the Iranians. Not the access of evil like I've been there to believe. But this stuff's really nice. I mean, I don't know whether he's trying to just hit us so that he can overtake, the Iranians can overtake Mount Yengo, but I don't think so. But he also did his thesis on lichens, which is very helpful at this rock art. But Amir has been responsible for getting a number of the Iranian sites onto the World Heritage List, and he's prepared to help us expand our listing so that we can include all the rock art as part of the World Heritage Listing. Partnerships, you know, as our opening Welcome to Country said, we need to start forming partnerships between Aboriginal people, between organisations, between people, between the community, to really just look at this area. The university, it'd be fantastic if the University of Newcastle can actually encourage teaching and research in the area, and also how to record it properly, you know. How the techniques, what are we going to do to record this thing? It's not like the Mona Lisa, it's a different form of art. It's completely unique, but it's unique in its particular genre across the world. You know, when Amir came back, he came back with me with these Iranian rock engravings, exactly same sort of shape, so there were people, they don't know who did them either. But all I know is that we owe something to the people that created this, and we have to see ourselves as the custodians of it now. And I want us to have a much more dignified trace on there than those bulldozer marks that we saw before, okay? We've got to stop being mechanical, horrible monsters and show the future what we are actually doing at the moment. Because that's all we're leaving. All we're leaving is a mark at the moment is just gouges. And I know we're better than that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Please let me introduce to you Garry Jones, who is the founder and co-leader of the Binghai Aboriginal Sites team. He's a retired senior lecturer in painting and drawing at the University of Newcastle, and I'll leave it up to him to explain even further. Thank you. Garry Jones.
Is that all right? He was getting rebound, I didn't want it. Thanks, and it's wonderful to see so many people here. I knew your community had like skyrocketed in the 19 years since I last gave a little dinky Kodak carousel slideshow up at Wollombi to the Wollombi Progress Association. So this sort of whole thing today came about because of Charles Smith and Gionni and a bunch of other people. And for those of you that aren't aware, I've been coming into this country since Easter time, 1976, and recording the sites up in Yengo country. What caused me to do that as a modern artist, was that I'd been involved in a very serious car accident in 1974. And at the end of 1975, I travelled to America to look at the art I wanted to see since I was about 12. Did so, and came back, and I was so bored with what I was doing compared to that, and everything I saw around me compared to that. Except that I remembered having seen an engraving site, which is that big site up at Fletcher that Johnny was taken to a couple of weeks ago. So I said to some friends, you know, they didn't have anything to do with Easter, let's go up and have a look. And we did, we stayed there virtually the whole of Easter, beyond what we intended, because the first night we had a gas lamp and we had a look at the images of the gas lamp. And they just leapt off the rock and into my heart, and I've been hooked ever since. So in the space of really just a few weeks, I began to go to the archives in Sydney, Mitchell Library. Then I heard, there's this crowd called Aboriginal Heritage Resources, I think John Clegg can fill in. And they became my second home because they were delighted someone so far up away from Sydney was going to start recording stuff. And in no time, they were giving me all the materials necessary. Because they were archaeologists and people who'd had so much experience all across New South Wales, but particularly with the sandstone art, that they were able to advise me really well. And then the following year there was a conference that John Clegg and I first met at, that was held at Terrigal, and things sort of just went on and on from there. So I say effectively that's sort of how I got caught up. Over the years we've watched the Wollombi Valley community grow and grow, and to be honest I'm just staggered by the development of the last 20 years, so I'll start showing you some pictures I think. I noticed John's eyebrows raised a little when he saw that bottom big paragraph about the scale of this outdoor collection of rock art, but given the concentration of sites we're finding, I should tell you this, that we've only covered in 33 years roughly 50 square kilometres, and when I say roughly I mean really roughly. That country out there is so rugged, you're battling see anything at times. And the area we sort of foolishly decided we'll work in will be from Broke across the Bulga, down the Putty to where the McDonald comes in, down the McDonald, down to Finances, and then up the valley. Now, you think that's not such a big chunk of country. Well, in the sandstone country, it's nothing. It's tiny. That's 2,500 square kilometres. That's how big it is. Now, we're finding in that rough country about 14 sites to the square kilometre. On the Hawkesbury, they get 30 plus. And as John can tell you, down around the whole Sydney Basin area and beyond, you know, I don't know the figures. The point is, this country has never been systematically surveyed for sites. But we're talking occupation sites as a whole, not just the art sites, and they all add up to a much bigger picture. The other point of view that I have as an artist is this, that from the outset I was determined to record the sites as thoroughly as possible, as accurately as possible, because the old way of mapping sites was with a simple little line through a grid drawing method, which we did sort of a little bit, but it was so tedious. And once tracing large pieces of plastic were available and good, you know, waterproof textures, away we went. We started tracing. So some of you know about Yengo and its significance, and some of you have been out there, and some of you would have seen sites out there, and some of you would not. But this mountain, for artist people and all the people of the sandstone country, and actually beyond, sorry, I put that one, was so important because this is where the deity, the Aboriginal equivalent of God Almighty, stepped back into the sky after creation. That's how loaded that is. I will not use the sacred name, though it's in common usage, out of respect to old men who would never use those names in the presence of anybody. But that's it. The weird thing is, of course, you see, we're talking about monotheism, and it's so close to the Judeo-Christian Islamic triumvirate sort of attitude as well. When I first started to read the literature, I was a little bit sceptical, but we're talking way back in the 19th century, this stuff was being recorded. Not just here around here, but throughout the southeast of Australia, which basically goes beyond the Queensland border, down through into South Australia and Victoria. So you're talking about a fairly large chunk of Australia shared this belief. But I haven't got time to talk too much about that. I'm really here to show you some of the art, and that's really what you want to see too. I don't blame you. So Yengo dominates physically the landscape and culturally. Physically because it is over 340 metres higher than the surrounding hills. So anyone who's been out there, or if you've been driving, knows that you've moved up from Sydney, every time you pop along from Peaks Ridge to Conyera to Buckety, you'll see little glimpses of it out there. Okay, so that's really the background to it. But we're talking about people coming from far and wide to this place. In 1852, there was a ceremony which was recorded by a guy, what was his name, Johnny? Ether. This guy in 1927-29 wrote about the history of settlement up near Bulga, Milberdale, at the northern end of the Putty as it comes into the Hunter. And he says, in the year 1852, the last ceremony was held. It is estimated, or on good authority, between 500 and 600 blacks came from as far away as Mudgee and Goulburn. They stayed in the district for some months, and in the course of that time, not a single outrage was perpetrated against any of the whites, who were greatly outnumbered and would have been at their mercy had the blacks turned hostile. It's 1852. That's not that long ago. My point is this. That's 1852, after smallpox, other diseases, massacres, displacement. How many people must have been coming and from how far afield in the decades and centuries prior to 1852? We're talking about people from far and wide coming to this country. Okay, this is a very rough map that I did in 1992. I don't speak for its truthfulness, it's simply an approximation to give you a sense that tribal boundaries, from everything we read, were a bit fuzzier at the edges than the way we mark out our border states these days. Because of the seasons and their movements, you're getting oscillations, you're getting pulsations, and you're also getting meeting places where three groups met. For example, Wollombi, which I'm sure you can see. It appears to be at least the Wonnarua, Arthur's people, the people from the Lake Macquarie, Newcastle area, the so-called Awabagal people, and the Darginjung people who stretched all the way to Jerry's Plains and took in the entire McDonald and Polo River basins. But you're talking mighty rugged country. So questions as to how big the population was, we just don't know. We've got no idea of modern day people, how people could survive in an untouched environment like that. We've got no idea. But that's sort of, I keep working away at this thing as a work in progress. And there would be changes in my mind to it, but as Charles said, a black on white, nice clear image, show it, and most people have got a sense of place. Okay, so there's Yengo dominating all of this. That's why we get so many important sites in the district, particularly on the main ridges where you're looking across to this sacred mountain. We just got blown away. Well, I got blown away, and then more and more people would come and go as part of this little recording team. And, well, we just keep doing it. The most common thing we find, some things you'd be familiar with, grinding grooves around in the creek beds and around pools. Common enough. I mean, I'd have been happy to just be an expert on grinding grooves if it come to crunch. I mean, the fascinating thing, as you'll see here a little bit later, is now you get all kinds of variations. This particular pool is out in Yengo country, and when I went to record it after Sir Fred McCarthy had been there in 1939, there was no pool until I pulled up a tuft of grass, and then there it was. It had been deepened with fire as well, very smooth and lovely water-containing pool it would have been. But you can see not that many grinding grooves, only about, from memory, about 11 around it, compared to this one, which, as you can see, Yengo in the background, a series of 3 pools that carry water, the other one's got a hole in it, 57 grooves around that, but there are some that got over 300. I mean, and John Clegg knows about them down on the coast, all over the shop. In terms of the art, the most common things we find are these little family shelters usually. We know they're family shelters because they've got adult hand stencils and little kiddie ones. And the other thing you often find that's fascinating is about, like the kids' rooms at home, you find little kids' scribbles right down there, and you find the adult stuff and grandma's stuff and blah, blah, blah. So they're pretty common. But we do get isolated little images that relate again to the more metaphysical side of this country. Lots of winged figures everywhere. Lots of flying people. We also get caves that are, this one's a pretty good example of, it's sort of slightly outside of Yengo country, but you'll see there's a big footprint in charcoal in the middle there. So we find images in the caves, even though they're family shelters, that echo what's actually on those bigger engraving sites. Some of the images are so fresh, it's like it was just done 2 minutes ago. This is one of the most well-preserved cave sites I know out there, and you can see down the bottom right corner where the person who's just sprayed their hand to do it has just wiped their fingers right on that little ledge. And I don't think it might be this site. There's another one I've got a slide of, I couldn't find it at short notice, where the person's gone at the end of that, and there's the spatter They've only just left a second ago. I just missed them. That's how rich and fresh and immediate some of this stuff is. But admittedly, some of it's very exposed, as you would have seen, those of you who have had sites on or near your property. Some of them, the wind just gets in and blah, blah, and you can see they're much more faded. Okay, the engravings are similar in the sense that, you see, they haven't been touched up in a long, long time. This is, I think you can see that's a boomerang and a club. Okay, the reason I'm showing you this slide is because that's in its pristine state. This site had never been interfered with. So you can see the lichens growing right through the grooves, okay? Now, if we were recording that, then one thing we'd be very careful of is we would not touch that lichen or just sort of scrape it away so we can blah, blah, blah. But I will admit there have been some sites where you have to move topsoil and stuff, and once you do that, the crust of the rock goes powder. It's a big ethical question for us. Do you record and sort of help the weathering process, or you just, I don't know. I won't get into that conundrum. Okay, this is an image, the one that Gionni showed you, turtle-like. It's certainly a tiny little figure about yay big. And those of you that have been up to the Finchley engraving site would have seen this one. It's actually looking to Yengo. You could say it's on bended knee. It certainly has that quality about it. But we do know there are some turtle totem things operating in that country, so it might be that. But this slide was taken in 1977, and so this is at its pristine. And you can see this lichen in the bottom of the grooves. Now, since 1988, Yengo National Park having been declared, this little image and everything at that site's just about, well, it suffered irreparable damage, really. The most common thing we find in terms of engraving sites are these. They're bird tracks. Okay, this is our recording of them. And the centre, roughly the centre, I'll use this thing. If I can work it. We're roughly, the engraving site is roughly there. This is a map of the district. And that's Yengo Track. And this is the main ridge coming down that we're on. And then down here's sort of the Boree area, and up here's the Wollobadar area, and up further is even off one of the ridges coming off Yengo Track. So they're maps, you see. They're ways to negotiate your way through the country. In September 1989, I took Paul Gordon, who many of you know, and we had hoped he's here, he's up in Coonabarabran today. I took Paul Gordon, who was the sites officer for Awabagal, and Jim Wright, who was the chairman of that organisation, out into Yengo for the first time. Paul had only been here about 18 months, and he was doing all stuff up and down the valley system that had been handed to him by his predecessor, basically. And I knew, I'd known for years how significant the stuff out there was, so we got Paul out, and Paul just blew me away. Because of his own background out west of a Nyampar man from northwestern New South Wales, and the fact that he'd done a sites course with Tranby in the mid-80s, in which got him his cultural sites work. I had read about this stuff, but I'd never seen it happen. He could go to, I took him to a site, he'd never been in the country, but I took him to a site. He said, there's going to be such and such a site up there, and such a site down there. It just blew me away. And for his part, he was just blown away that Peter Crowson and were people who were taking an interest in his people's stuff. So that's basically how all of that, and then the corroboree and everything else came from that. But it's to do with this mapping of the country. You can negotiate your way through the country with the sites, which makes sense because these things are carved in stone. And let's say some dreadful catastrophe happened, and 500 years later people had to come back to this country. They'd know how to get through the country. Makes total sense. Okay, that's one that's quite a big one. It's about, yay high, just on an isolated boulder. But it's telling you where to go. Okay, the Finchley site, the best recording ever done was by Ian Sim in the early 60s. And you can see there's a lot of stuff there. From memory there's, I forget how many marks there are, who cares about counting, there's a lot of stuff. major images. You've seen some already. The thing I want to impress on you is this. I was subject to a terrible delusion as a Western artist in looking at these sites, and particularly site charts like this, because I thought they're like I do. They're compositions, see, you know. But of course they're more than one artist has been involved. They've been made over who knows how long a period of time. But it's full of different teachings. It's an amalgam of teachings, and you'll see that some of the images appear vertical to us, and some of you walk around slightly different, and others are totally the opposite direction. See, they're not compositions. The problem is we put them in rectangles in books, and people think, oh, what an interesting composition. It ain't. It's a bunch of things. Now, back to the mapping side of it. At Finchley, you will be aware, some of you, that the northern portion of it contains these images. Now, the tracks, I've already told you that. They're telling you the pathways in for people who are affiliated with emus, probably, or birds, and others who are associated with wallabies and kangaroos, you know, marsupial. See? You've got two different tracks coming in to this place. Now, the birds are interesting. You've got three different ones. The one here, you'll see it's an emu. And its feet, they're pointing out that way. And this one, a bit more of a water bird, it's going that way. And this brush turkey is going that way. Keep that brush turkey in mind, because we're going to come back and visit it. Oh, come on. That's what the brush turkey looks like with our recordings. We trace the image and every little contour around the edge of them. We also actually, because of a wonderful woman, you'll see a slide of her, we record the punctures that are visible inside the grooves as well. Those of you that know the sculptures of Brancusi and the birds in space, hey, we got beaten to it by a long time. That is so graceful. And just in case you're not, you know, if you just take a second to look at it, we're talking about a carving in rock using simple stone tools. But how good's the power of observation? Look at the form captured in a single line. I could go on and on, but I'm an artist and a fruitcake, so I'll keep going. We also have, we get these slightly less representational, a bit more charming images. This one's 2.5 metres from top to bottom, but that's nothing like the biggest ones in the Yengo. And with what John Clegg sees down in the Hawkesbury Sydney Basin area, they're huge. Pat Binnicum is this wonderful woman that we worked with for 2 seasons when she was doing survey work in the late 70s on the Hawkesbury. We learned so much from Pat. God rest her, she died a couple of years ago. She never ever left Australia after doing this work here, because she was a South African-born woman. She spent her childhood with the Bushman people, and she could do that tick, 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 click. She could have a conversation with a dripping tap. She actually rented a little cottage on John's place in Balmain at that period. She didn't know, however, about nighttime recording, and so she loved it when we started doing her stuff down there using nighttime recording techniques. This is our Starship Enterprise. See, it's got a handle, so you don't have to go like this. I've got to tell you, with gas lamps, the standard ones, it's very tricky. I was at this site to the southwest of here, and on this night I'm looking at an image, and my offsider, Peter Krause, who by the way had to go to Victoria because of the fires, a friend in need. Sorry, he said sorry, so I'm saying sorry. Peter says to me, Garry, don't move. And I looked, and I was about 3 centimetres from a sheer drop of about 30 metres. In the dark, see, you got light in your eyes. That's why we have a baffle on our lamp, which is that, you see? That's how low it is, that's right. The beauty of a gas lamp is you can adjust the illumination, and you have to do that because the old way people used a thing called carbide lamp. Some of you know what that is. So bright, bright light. The only problem is it throws every little twig into relief, and you get a shadow 2 metres long from a pebble. You know? Well, you can't afford to do that. Some of this stuff is so faint. The best story I have is this afternoon Peter and I are having lunch and he says, oh, I reckon there's an engraving. Crap. 2 beautiful figures that night once we got the land. But I was sitting on one just after 10 years of doing it. I didn't believe I was sitting on one, and I was. Oh, no, I got it. Sorry. Okay, the most common method, if you remember that big sight chart of the Finchley engravings, that was just done with a fine line. That's the most common way of recording that's been done over the years. The only problem is it doesn't show the art for what it truly is. It's a good way of mapping the site as a whole. So that's what the images look like. And what I want you to do is, in your mind, just put a couple of adjectives to describe what you think that expresses to you. I'll give you mine. It's sort of friendly and quaint. It's nice. It's a nice, friendly, quaint image. This one, on the other hand, this is what happens when images are regrooved and scratched by visitors who want to get better photographs, or sandblasters are used to tidy them up. Heaven forbid. The expressions I would use for this one would be bold and like a logo, and maybe a bit slightly static. Compared to, that's the contour in all its glory. Okay, you can't see the puncture marks, but they're inferred a little bit by the swellings and the narrowings. To me, that's full of energy and very animated, and I think it's true of engravings all around the world. That the reason part of the reason aesthetically is because it's an uneven line. It's not like graphics that we use. They're not like cartoons with a rapidograph 1.0 pen. They oscillate and they move in space. Now, talking of space, most people think that primitive or tribal peoples, and this is still a prevalent view, are incapable of representing pictorial depth. Well, look at this. Just out here, not far away, we've got a thigh over a trunk, over a breast. Now that's pictorial depth. Experts, wherever you are. This one's even better, but this is a bit subtle. You'll have to take your time to look at it because it's a goanna, yes, it's a full life-size goanna. It's also pointing up toward Paul Gordon's country, and Yampa people are goanna people. So they're certainly coming down here. When you look carefully, we've got an overlapping at the top of the tail. You can't see the top of the other leg. And look, we can only see one eye on this side. That's how clever that is. It is a downward view, but it's not a flat, simple plan view. It's actually slightly three-dimensional. So much for unsophisticated imagery. Kids, oh no, you don't have to do it. If you take that pose, that's a pretty universal meaning. That means stop. You're coming into men's country, you stop. Those little women, by the way, they're pointing around men's country with their hands. Oh. Try this one then with your body. Get up of a morning and go, hey! That's the most common human depiction we get in Yengo country. And you think about the metaphysic of Yengo country, it makes a lot of sense. You feel mighty good when you stretch your torso that far. Well, only Rubberman can do that one. I can't even do that one. The other thing are metaphorical images, and my favourite in this country is the emu woman. Now that's the image as you see it, more or less. Actually, this is a slide again, taken a long time ago when it was still in good nick. But you'll see even then people were scratching outside the line. I mean, how dumb could you get to take a photograph? They didn't even scratch inside the group. But that's our recording of it, as it was in its pristine state, relatively pristine state. It's a woman and it's an emu at the same time. Like all good metaphors, your mind's going, or they coexist in your head. Brilliant. We also get what you see in other ancient parts of the world where natural formations have been used and extended to make the image. In this case, the body, the bowl shape, is a piece of flake weathering, and then the artist has chipped and reinforced that, but then look how elegantly described the emu in profile. This is big, this is 2.2 metres. Big emu, a lot of tucker. We also do get what are called anthropomorphic images, and that's where figures are morphing into animals and animals morphing into people. I really prefer not to show you examples of those things because of stuff. However, this is a good example because here you see the emu leaps forward, slightly different direction, and becomes a human. And we get that sort of stuff all through that country. We get emu women there, and we get kangaroo men there, and we get dingo men there, and turtle stuff, if we knew enough about that country there. Okay, that brush turkey, you remember I said was pointing up at Finchley? It's pointing north of Wollombi. And of course, those of you that know, there's a site up there with this magnificent, internally decorated bush turkey up there. So, if you'd arrived from the Colo Mob, or from Mudgee, or from the Wiradjuri down around the Riverina and got up into this country, and you got to the northern map site, which is what my goody friends prefer to call the Finchley site, because it's helping people coming in from the north to this country. You could then go to the brush turkey people. To the south we get the Durrow people, and what's interesting with them, their shield is almost always on their major sites. Nobody else does it. Pat Vinicum said it was because their language had more in common with central desert people, so if they were, like, you know, floating around or surrounded by other people, maybe they did have to mark their site accordingly. John Fryer is going to show you this image in a much better way than I ever could. But this is the big image up at Milbrodale. To give you an idea, if you've never been there, from fingertip to fingertip it's 5 metres. You try stretching your arms that far, and you feel pretty good too, but what I wanted to do, just in case he doesn't show you, is that's the view it's got of that southern escarpment of the Hunter. The settlers, the first settlers of that farm area where it is, the dairy farm, are the Smith family, and they're still there today. And I remember hearing in the 70s it said that their family had made note that the cave was used, and it could have been 1852, as the natural acoustics to allow the elders to speak to the assembled people down below. It makes sense, you know, the perfect spot. Okay, that's what this 2,500 metres small backyard that we chose to wander around in, that's what it looks like. Or if you look south to the Blue Mountains, that's what it looks like. There's little Yengo just up above Yengo. You can see there's so much untouched country through there. And Cole Marsh is, I think, one of the last who really knows that country. I've got to get some info. If you haven't been out there, the western side of it, it's like this. You get all these terraces, very rugged. The sites themselves, the engravings, they're huge and dramatic and grand and majestic and all of that. And you occasionally get the tessellated ones, although that's down the Hawkesbury. Okay, I found this map in the archives in the 80s, I think, or something. Anyway, Johnny and I'd never ever scanned it until I was at the uni last week. I used to get out a magnifying glass and try to look at the tribal names that were on it. And there's, not Yengo, Yengo, 1833, Darcy, first surveyor to ever record that country between the Macdonald River and the mountain, and he called it Yengo. You can bet he was following the directive of Mitchell, who was the Surveyor General, to record wherever possible the native names of the landforms. So you might live in Yengo Creek, but possibly it's really Yengo Creek. And when you think about that flat nasal sound compared to the richness of that reverberating sound, makes sense. Okay, that's it from there. Come on. No, I won't do that. That image. Examples of vandalism. The most common one, people chalking stuff with these hard chalks. Don't do it, please. Telling people not to. 1862, a couple of guys decided to put their brand on a huge, very important site. But at least we've got a record of that. That's the worst example. At that Finchley site, Ian Sim recorded that as an intact image in the early 60s. By 1976 at Easter, that's what had happened. They'd taken away, probably a bit of flake weathering, they prized it up, stuck it on their mantle shelf. Look, I think I've done my bit because I'm going to go over time. If we were training people and blah blah, and that's your mouth. Thank you for your time.
We'll just keep going because it's been very interesting up to now. For me, I guess for everyone else. Our next speaker is Mr. John Clegg, who wants me to keep talking for 5 minutes. He's an ex-archaeologist from Sydney University. He says he's spent a few years trying to teach victims about rock art. Master of Arts at Cambridge. So when John is ready, it'll be most interesting to hear what he has to say. I hope you're enjoying the afternoon.
Yep.
Hearing a few interesting lessons on what we've got around us here. And it's only a small portion from what I've been told. We are literally living in a library. And here he is, Mr. John Clegg.
I don't belong to this area, I belong to Monterosa Creek, and that's only on some weekends. But I'm trying to focus this on this area, and I'm going to start. Well, this whole area I'm covering. Number 2 is Wollombi, and it actually says it, so it must be true. And at Wollombi is Malavilla, and in Malavilla lived Eliza Dunlop, who wrote the other side of the paper. And Isaac Nathan set it to music, and we've got that bass, haven't we? We only need a pianoforte, 2 trebles, a bass and a tenor, and a viola, I think. And it'd be lovely to hear it. One of the things that interests me a great deal is that her poem and Nathan's song is about an eagle chase. And eagles are really important in this area, but there are very, very few pictures or engravings of them until you get high up in the Wollombi, even beyond Yengo, in Paul Tayson country. Okay, I've tried to circulate that map with the stuff on the other side. I don't really belong to this area, although I relate to it a little bit. I exhibit regularly in sculpture vineyards, but my main claim to neighbourness is that my wife and her sisters own a weekender on Mobo Creek. Right, how about Eliza Hamilton? Ta-ra. 1823-ish, but I gather she didn't build a house until 1840-ish. You got that to see yourself, and it's even got music to it. And as I say, I'd love to hear it sometime. But what I'm really about that joins all this stuff together is I did this work based on a book that Tony Swain published in 1993 called A Place for Strangers, Changes to Aboriginal Religion with the 1788 invasion of Australia. And in '93 I started looking for archaeological evidence that might support his thesis. And because he's a religious academic or an academic religious person and don't know a great deal of the archaeology. His hypothesis is that Aborigines in the Sydney area reacted to the white invasion and its consequences by restructuring their cosmology with a major religious innovation known as the cult of Biami. This cult included a supernatural all-father creator, variously known as Biami, Banjul and Daramulan. Sometimes Daramulan is represented as the son of Biami, mediating between him and the earth. And as we'll hear, or I hope I'll mention a bit later, in some places it's Biami's mother who is the important one. The first record there is of Biami is from Wellington Valley, which is fairly close to Dubbo, which is six hours by car west of here, presumably something like a week's walk. Whereas most of the places I'll be playing with are within 1 or 2 days' walk of each other. Most of the map that you have on your neighbour's lap is, I reckon you could get from side to side or top to bottom, depending on keenness, in a couple of days. Or if you knew the way. If you didn't know the way, you wouldn't get it at all. And what they said at Wellington Valley in 1831 is that the natives used to assemble once a year in the month of February to dance and sing a song in honour of Biami. He had created the entire world, but long ago decided to leave the earth, presumably by jumping off Mount Yengo. From his heavenly realm, he rewards and punishes people through his mediatory son, Daramulan, and through the Daramulan, he knows all things. Various estimates in 1831 put the indigenous population within a 200 kilometre radius of Sydney, the total Aboriginal population at 500 individual people. They guess. If Biami was a new and different introduction at that stage, the change could have been fairly simple. There are, according to Swain, well-documented narratives of this region explaining how a multiplicity of ancestral beings transformed the country. If you place one new monotheistic figure outside and above the totemic and kinship order, thus elevating him to a status more exalted than the other beings, then you don't have to change very much except making one of them more important than the other. And this seems a fairly good explanation, fairly good model of what might have happened. And for the moment, if we've got Biami as a big creature there, this thing, it's not as close to the Great North Road as we are. We're only, 75 metres from it. But it's about less than a kilometre from Great North Road, the other side of Wiseman's Ferry, about 14 k's south. And it's a nice big cave, drawings in it. Down under Biami's right hand is there's a pair of people, one apparently female, the other apparently male, and they're all sort of sitting on some sort of linear feature, presumably a pathway of some sort. This sort of thing happens with lots of religions when one day a new one comes along. All the Celtic gods become saints when Christianity takes over. The same thing happens with Hinduism when Buddhism takes over in Royal Country, and so on. Oh, what about that on one side? Oh, I've got to be told how to do this, haven't I? Oh, oh, this way. Previous, that one. That. Ah. Okay. Little man, little woman, they're both about yay high. Little man, little woman. And this is from Mangrove Creek, just over there. Just over there. Just over there. I need you people when I'm pretending not to be so ignorant, which is, I suggest as a possibility that the whole cosmos was occupied by lots of people who all helped create things, and then one of them got promoted to take charge of it. And it's important that I shouldn't. I'm worried about the tone of voice in which I'm talking. I shouldn't mock other people's beliefs. But I can't help it as a sort of model of what happened. I don't mind talking about such things as Christianity. And not many people seem to be worried about it. Okay, problem for me being light-hearted about producing models of what might have happened about two things which are incredibly important for other people. So I've got to apologize to them for being more light-hearted than I perhaps should be. Oh, and I apologize for showing everybody else's slides and mine being wrong order and usually upside down. You may or may not know of a gentleman called Lancelot E. Threlkeld, who was a missionary at Lake Macquarie, a place that he called Ebenezer and they now call Toronto. He was a missionary there from 1826 to 1841. And that's him aged, what's 15 plus 12? 27, thank you. He got a reputation for not being a very competent missionary because they all died out. Not all of them, but there weren't many people left when he stopped being a missionary. And with the help of a man called, with the English name McGill and the Aboriginal title Biriban, which means Eagle's Hawk, he wrote a grammar of the Awabagal language and translated the whole of the Gospel of Luke and at least 150 manuscript pages of the Gospel of Mark into the Awabagal language. There's the first page of Mark, which is Tuesday, December 13th, 1836. And no, I can't read it. And there he is as an elderly gentleman in Sydney. He died in 1859. Here is, I've already winced at you all for showing the same slide. This is the north bit of Lake Macquarie. His first place, Ebenezer, was there, but as it says, the soil was so awful that they had to move, and they moved to whichever one of those it is. This map made by a government surveyor in 1827, and this was the main road to the church parsonage in Newcastle, whose block of white paint we've seen a picture of already. What's this? Threlkeld in 1836 wrote, "A young Aboriginal." That Threlkeld was teaching him to read and write. While reading one of the lessons in the spelling book, in which I was explaining to him and enforcing the truth that he who made all things is God, he observed that old McGill knew it, for he had seen Jehovah. Inquiring further into this extraordinary assertion from a black, he said he would bring McGill to inform me all about the circumstances. McGill came and related to me as follows. The night before last, when coming hither, I slept on the other side of the lake. I dreamt that I and my party of blacks were up in the heavens, that we stood on the cloud. We stood on a cloud. I looked round about in the heavens. I said to the men that were with me, there he is he who is called Jehovah. Here he comes flying like fire with a great shining. This is he about whom the whites speak. He appeared to me like a man with clothing on fire, red like a flame. His arms were stretched out like the wings of a bird in the act of flying. Yeah, you're going to see more of that. He did not speak to us, but only looked earnestly at us as he was flying past. I said to the blacks with me, let us go down lest he take us away. We descended on the top of a very high mountain, like this pestle, showing me one was in the study. We came to the bottom, and just as we reached the level ground, I awoke. We often dream of this mountain. Many blacks fancy themselves on the top when asleep. Okay, you've seen the mountain. And that bit sounds to me remarkably like a bit of Luke. Luke 21, 25 to 28. There will be signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars, and on earth nations will be in dismay, perplexed by the roaring of the sea and the waves. People will die of fright in anticipation of what is coming upon the world, for the powers of the heavens will be shaken, and then they will see the Son of Man coming in a great cloud with power and great glory. A passage also popular as a hymn, Lo, he comes with clouds descending, which was written by John Kennick, altered by Charles Wesley, and then by Martin McDan. Charles Wesley was the composer who did a lot of Methodist hymns, and Threlkeld was a sort of a Methodist. Here's a quote from an important Aboriginal who died, 10 years ago, called Burnham. He wrote this, or he's quoted as saying this in 1989. I, like every Aboriginal person, believe in and acknowledge the existence of the Great Spirit. Some of us know it as God, others by other names such as Biami. It is believed that around the Wollombi, in the caves there, is a physical manifestation of Biami in the form of a huge cave painting that has exaggerated arms outstretched to embrace all things. Up there, is that Wilbur there? I think it is. Pretty close. Somewhere near Gone Broke. Hang on. Whoa. Previous. Don't you get angry when people don't know how to work their technology? Okay. So there's it there, and that's where Ebenezer was, where Toronto is, and that's supposed to be Mount Yengo. And that's where I went to the other side of it. The price. Okay. It's fairly obvious it's a very high mountain, the big Mount Yengo, which is well known as the focus of Aboriginal spirituality. And okay, a lot of people then also fit that Milbrodale picture in with Miami, and in fact called Miami when you pay her $5 to visit it. When I first heard of Swain's theory that Miami might have been post-contact, my immediate reaction was to take him to Devil's Rock, to Maruta, and show him Miami and Garramulan and all this enormous engraving, and to say there's no way that there can have been enough people around and about at that time to make all this stuff in the 1820s, 1830s, because at that stage, like lots of other people I thought of, there are not many of them left. And a lot of people just point to the sailing boat that's up there, there's a kangaroo that's been bashed by, well, it's got a spear in its belly and half a dozen boomerangs hitting it, and it's holding a little sailing boat under its right armpit. And there is Miami on the right, Mulan on the left, next to a couple of, well, next to the emu. And another big emu with his eggs down below, and the story about, or footprints of not an emu, but a brush turkey going away from the emu, and this presumably is the story about how the emu lost his wings and how the brush turkey lays only one egg instead of lots of eggs, which I haven't got time to tell you. Okay, a couple of engravings at Devil's Rock. There's the sailing boat that obviously must be post-contact, and thing which hadn't been discovered when Swain was writing this white man in his top hat is obviously also post-contact, unless he's a figment of Aboriginal imagination. And I, being ignorant, had the same feeling as Walton was writing in 1932, when, I'm talking about this site, when many years ago the Great Northern Road to Newcastle via Wiseman's Ferry was being made. A remnant of the Aborigines who lived in the Maruta district always avoided a certain part of the country. It is said they regarded it as a double rock. It is unlikely that any of the blacks living at the time had ever seen it, because in those days the local Aborigines had been in contact with the white race for a number of years, and with the break-up of tribal life had discontinued many of their old customs, and apart perhaps from a solitary survivor among the old men, had no direct instruction in their tribal law. There is a typical white academic laying down the law about what happened, with absolutely no evidence. Swain believed that the cult originated in the Sydney area, and he refers to 2 sites as physical evidence to support the case. That sailing boat I've just been showing you, and this sailing ship and culture hero near Maruta, that's number 8 on the map. And even more telling, he says, is an ochre. Even more telling is an ochre painting which Mackintosh claims to represent the same class of figures as the rock engravings of Miami. Like the engravings, it depicts a male anthropomorph with outstretched arms, Philinamide, presumably, white eyes, but horns on his head. And there's another one, white eyes, horns on head, again, very short arms, got the longer legs. With outstretched limbs and having eyes but no nose or mouth. It differs conspicuously from the engravings, however, in one important respect. On the painted figure is a prominent pair of horns, unambiguously announcing it as a post-colonial mythic configuration, says Swain. Swain's an academic, so he talks like that. Mackintosh, who reported on this site, he reported a pair of horned anthropomorphs, and since there are no horned mammals in Australia, he didn't count the beetles that have horns on them, nor the fish that have horns on them, but since there are no horned mammals in Australia, he reckons this must be imported, and compares the horned anthropomorph with horned gods of the old world, and discusses a possible diffusion from an area, a place he calls the Near East, and I don't think he meant New Zealand. But they had a way of turning the world upside down then. Okay, but the ignorant bugger didn't know about Christianity. Cause a bloke called Moses was called up to visit God, where he was given some tablets, which he brought back down to tell people how to behave. And the result of him seeing the God face to face was that his face was very radiant. And unfortunately, the word for radiant in Latin is the same as the word for horns. And, or so the people say. So in the subway, on the way to the House of Representatives, between the House of Reps and the Senate in the US of A, are these well-preserved. I think they think of these things as works of art. One of them is radiant horns, another of them just with tiny little budding horns stuck out on the top of his head. I don't quite know why he's wearing babies. Anyway, there is a long Christian tradition, presumably Judeo-Christian, sorry, don't know, about horns on Moses. The one we know best in our culture, of course, is Michelangelo's. The Knox version of the Bible says in Exodus 34, 29, 35, and his face, although he did not know it, was all radiant, which made everybody scared, so he had to wear a veil. And then it has a footnote, and the footnote says literally in the Latin, his face was horned. Now, quite why neither Michelangelo nor those funny Americans stuck horns coming out of his cheekbones, I don't know. Mackintosh reckoned, made the equation of those horned anthropomorphs with the Biami at Mount Gurringai, saying, apart from the face and the arms being different and everything else being different, and the lack of horns, this is obviously the same person, isn't it? Mackintosh was an anatomist and an authority on dingoes, so of course he knew. Okay, I reckon these look much more like, which will they see them anyway, the Finchley tree things, whose horns are not usually stated as being important, but I guess are usually thought of as hair. He can't do it, can he? Presumably they could just be hairdos if you let your hair grow enough and detail it and put on lots of grilled cream or whatever. What? Is that all visible? There's another horned anthropomorph that was only found recently. It's a bit strange because one of the people who helped Mackintosh was Mr. Nurse, and the Nurse place it's actually this figure is only 200 meters from the Nurse's house on Lake Mogo Creek. But are close to the St Albans detour from the Great North Road, which apparently was opened to traffic in about 1841. There is the Great North Road, there is the cave, which is quite a small cave. That figure is about 4 foot. Anyway, it's sort of human size, so it's a tiny little cave. Right next door, like all the rest of these things so far, to the Old North Road. So there are all three of the horned anthropomorphs together, anthropomorphs. Nothing like being in a hurry to talk even proper. Oh, I've got them all over. Too bad. All the sites mentioned so far have been on or around the Great North Road, including the diversion down to civilization of 1841. As you all know, this thing was built between 1826 and 1836. It's a great feat of engineering to go from Sydney to Newcastle, basically, and of course through Laguna. Trouble was, as soon as the Sarah Jane was built, we started the first regular ticketed boat to go between Sydney and Newcastle. People decided not to be jolted about that enormous expense, taking 3 or 4 days on a carriage to get along the Old North Road, and they just hopped on the steamboat instead. So at once the Great North Road went into disuse, apart from the useful areas of it that went between this civilization, like St Albans and Laguna. In case you don't know what this country is like and wander around it, here's an area photograph of it. Great North Road, St Albans bypass, the basalt quarry near the nurses. So that picture I've just been talking about is, yes, there. And our place is there. If you ever want to visit us. Notice the way to get through this country is along the ridges. Notice how almost every ridge, unless it's a river like Mulberry Creek, if you look really hard on this, you would find lots of tracks along lots of rivers. And I'm not going to look for any others because I haven't got the time. I mean, because I would probably go up and down river valleys and you'd all laugh at me even more than you are already. There are some engravings near the North Road that are done by convicts. This is probably one of the best known ones. Having a nice time off with his pipe and wearing his convict hat with his. You know, we done that like school kids nowadays with a peak on it to keep the sun off and a thing down the back to keep the sun off. And the pipe. And I find this noticeably not nearly as Aboriginal looking as that one. Not merely because that one's made of dots, but also because the top hat, you will notice if you look really hard, is made of perspex. Oh, no. There must be a proper way of saying that. Okay, back to Miami. Oh, more things right next door to the Great North Road. Yeah, we've done all of those, except this other boat that's better that way up. And again, there's the Great North Road. It's actually that far from it. This is south of Westminster Ferry again. Okay. Dennis Foley wrote a book called Repossession of Our Spirit, Traditional Owners of Northern Sydney. And he said that is for them, that mob, Miami is our creator and often referred to as the supreme being. She gave birth to a son, Dalamulan, whose images are permanently engraved in stone in numerous locations around our land. Permanently engraved, I wish. So, different areas, different understandings of who they are and which of the family is important. John MacDonald, the archaeologist who wrote the paper about all tracks lead to Mount Yengo, did a distribution mapping whereabouts are Miamis, that's the big men, full face, usually 3 or 4 meters tall. So Miamis are circles. Hey. That's the one a bit north of Wollombi. That's Maruti Devil's Rock. And there's another one a bit further south. Okay, Biamis are there. Both Biami and Dadamulan, those two stars. So basically, Biami comes down McDonald and spreads into Gurringai Chase. Dadamulan comes down the coast-ish and spreads into Gurringai Chase. And there are a couple of pictures of them both. Next door traditional plantation types. Here is a bit of an argument which says if they are, perhaps these are, perhaps that is, how do they relate to ordinary pictures of women? How do they relate to ordinary pictures of koalas? And ordinary so-called hoko pictures, which may or may not be called Ruth. Okay, that's the main story, but there's a sort of another bit, which is in the southern bit of Gurringai Chase, there's a gathering of anomalous engravings. We're lucky that we've got a couple of well stuck together compendia of engravings in the Sydney area, Campbell's in 1899, and McCarthy stuck Campbell's and his own recordings together into one book, in 1960-something. So we've got a fairly big population, which is enough to say what Sydney area engravings look like, and try to say how are they different from engravings here. And I'm not sure if they are, but it's probably something to do with the feet. And basically they tend to be in twisted perspective. That is, yes, we've already had. Do they show things behind each other? Do they have perspex hats on? Do they? And there's a few that look very different. At a place that I know fairly well, called Elvina Track, in the south of Gurringai Chase, which has, among other things, a Dadamulan figure with a couple of emus next door to it, a big male figure that people didn't know much about until we found it, and one of these small Dadamulan figures, or small profile figures, which may or may not be emus, especially if they're female. But if the emus are a bit strange because they've got human feet. Or what it is, not a human foot, is a bear. Shut up, stop digressing. Okay. One thing, there are two whales, one behind the other. Is that right? Okay. There's another just about a kilometre north of that one, that will be in the tree. There's another pair of whales, one behind the other. Those are the only two in the Sydney area. There's another strange one, a whale from on top flapping its tail, which is next door to where Sculpture by the Sea happens. It has, of course, been re-grooved by a helpful council to make sure it will go on forever, and they managed to cut its tail off, but there's enough left. This is from the Campbell 1899 recording. And there's another funny thing. which is, there's another perspective to this. Whales are often drawn with two fins. Beautifully in perspective, except that the nearer fin is much smaller than the further fin. So there's a thing in perspective about getting in the way of, but there's not a thing in perspective about getting smaller than. These things are supposed to be not there in Aboriginal art. Where's that one? That is near Double Boy. So going up the coast from Sydney as far nearly as far as Gosford. Again, two things, one behind the other, and the nearer one being small. Kids don't make that mistake, because they can try to do one behind the other and end up a very cunning way of showing them. These kids are from, where was it? Bronte by the Beach Public School in 19 something or other, 2005. Class 4B at Bronte by the Sea Public School. Another, see if you can see it. As far as I'm concerned, it is a long-necked bird, not an ibis, but a goosey sort of thing, flying over, and it's got its, the wing that's close to us is enormous, and the wing that's on the other side is tiny. Some people, I occasionally have managed to see that, and it looked like, but I think it is not quite well enough drawn to make it work for everybody all the time. Does anybody actually see it as a big wing close to you and a small distant one? And there's a penguin. Here is a typical Sydney area penguin. Here's the albino penguin. That's what penguins look like in bird books. Don't ask me which is the better description of what penguins are like, but at any rate, that one is anomalous. All of which seems to say that whoever was doing these funny things, these strange things at Alvina, had a lot of white drawings characteristic. Do you understand what I was trying to say? I know it wasn't English. Good, thank you. This one, nobody could understand what this is until I realised that it was a hermaphrodite figure and it's standing on tiptoes doing ballet. And that the feet are incredibly well drawn. Once you realise that it's on tiptoe and it's got the top. If you don't know what feet are, have a bath. Another one, this is the only brush-tailed possum engraving that I know of in the Sydney area. There's a picture of it, our photograph, there's our tracing of it, and there's a drawing of a brush-tailed possum by somebody or other else. So whoever was doing this was very good at observing possums, very good at observing balletic human feet, very good at least two different sorts of perspective. Okay, Biami comes in various sorts. At Wonnarua waters, there are three. There's a big, fairly ordinary sort of Biami, and what's special about Biami is, Daramulan. What's special about Daramulan is that he's in profile, he's got a duck's bum, or an emu's bum, and sometimes a human foot. There's somebody trying to draw a person with only one leg, which is what you get in profile. Next, not far away, there's this very strange one that has two heads. If you look at other Darramulans, not that one, but a lot of the other Darramulans also look as though they might have two heads, or at least be two-faced, like total one process. And recently has turned up this one at the Clues. And the story about that is that some Wiradjuri came to stay with Edworth at the Clues a bit ago. Right, beginning of last century, 1910s, 1920s, and they did this Rotten Vegas. Okay. There is an historical figure who could have been the person who got all this going and spread Threlkeld's ideas, or Threlkeld's teaching, through the country as Biami. There's a picture of him done by the convict painter Brown in 1831 when he was all dressed up, I think, to get initiated, or the last stage of initiation that he went through. His English name was McGill. His real name that he got on that occasion was Billabang. Here's what he looks like in 1839 when he's acknowledged as having done all that work and helped Threlkeld. What have we got there? Oh, forget about that one. One should always end with all the characters coming on stage. The one you of course don't recognise is Eliza. And there's my email address if you actually want any of this stuff.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Mr. Wayne Erskine, who is a professor in natural resource management at Ourimbah University. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you very much. I interpreted what I was asked to do was to try and give some advice on where you're likely to find evidence of Aboriginal occupation in the Wollombi catchment, based on work that I've been doing here since 1979. I am not an archaeologist, not an anthropologist, I'm not a theologian either. I'm basically a person who's interested in earth surface processes and landforms. And I've dug many a hole throughout the floodplains and terraces of Wollombi Brook. And so I just want to try and distill where I have found evidence of Aboriginal occupation. I do want to stress that, like Kakadu and Arnhem Land, we are in a sandstone catchment, and like Kakadu and Arnhem Land, sandstone country is very good country for finding a number of occupational sites where they produce very good rock art sites, and also caves and occupational sites as well. What I'm going to do is briefly start with some information on the geological context of the catchment, look at the hydrological imperative of Aborigines, so they needed water, so you're likely to find many good sites around good watering points. I'll then make some brief suggestions of likely sites on 3 of the creeks that I've worked on, Finances Creek, Dairy Arm and Wollombi Brook. I'll also present some archaeological results from a paleo flood study that I've done at Paynes Crossing. I would also like to point out that there are many sandstone caves likely where rock art has been found, some of which you've already heard about, and of course rock grinding grooves are very common in this area. The Wollombi Brook catchment's 2,000 square kilometres in size. The catchment boundary is shown by this dashed line, and as you can see, by far the bulk of it is occupied by that pattern, which is basically sandstone. It's usually all middle to late Triassic in age, which just basically means it's about 220 million years old. But the sandstones are comprised of 2 different mappable units of formations. The top stuff around here is Hawkesbury Sandstone, and the underlying stuff is what's now called the Terrigal Formation of the Gosford subgroup of the Narrabeen group. There's very little difference between the sandstones in each, the Gosford Formation and the Terrigal Formation. The main difference is that the lower stuff, like where we are here, has more matrix or more material infilling between the sand grains, and it has a different heavy mineral sweep. Basically that means bugger all. If you want to know the difference, you're going to have to walk around with your petrological microscope in your back pocket to be able to pick the difference between the 2. Most of the sandstone cliffs you have upstream of here are mapped as the mangrove sandstone member, and it extends over also into the Yarramalong Valley. Up around Millfield, you do get into the underlying rocks, which are Permian in age, and also around Broke and further downstream, and they're basically usually softer rocks. I will say a little bit about them, but I think most of the archaeological interest in country is in fact in the sandstone. Okay, Aborigines like us have a need for water, and so you'll find many good examples of campsites near permanent water. The point that I'd like to make is it's not the permanent water that exists today, it's the permanent water that existed before European settlement. So many of the areas that were in fact declared water reserves at the time of first settlement are now infilled with sand. So if you looked at it today, you may not think it was a good watering point, when in fact it may well have been for Aborigines. Also, they needed shelter, and that's where sandstone is very important. Not only caves, but some of the big boulders also provided some very good shelter. If they had a good campsite, then quite often they would have stayed there for some time and manufactured stone tools. And of course, would have discarded what they didn't want. So there's some very good, if you like, rubbish dumps, and I mean that in the nicest sense of the word, where you can find plenty of the discards. And of course, they did other things as well. The other thing that I'm unaware of around here are quarry sites for suitable stone implements. In the Golden Valley to the west, there were some important quarry sites in basalts. And of course, we do have some important basalt mountains around here, with Mount Wonnarua and Mount Yengo being very important. I've just put in here a surveyed cross-section that I come across in State Archives from 1829, and it starts at the top of Mount Wonnarua. I'm sorry, because the location of that survey transect was shown down here. The quality of the map's pretty horrendous, so I haven't included it. But you can see, basically, there's a couple of 100 metres of basalt at the top of Mount Wonnarua where the fire tower is. And when you come down off that basalt, or bluestone, you reach a shelf, and that's where the sandstone starts, and the rest of the valley is cut into sandstone. I would hypothesise that there would be some Aboriginal quarry sites on some of the basalts around here, and once you get lower down on some of the terraces overlooking the Hunter, there are some very good quarry sites in some of the sill creeks on those river terraces. Sandstone doesn't make a good stone implement material, so was not used. The work that I've done has involved a hell of a lot of drilling holes and digging trenches and pits and the like. And so I've looked at many kilometres of valley around here, and so what I want to do is just distill out of that the areas that I've found where there's post-European settlement sediment, something that I call PSA, post-settlement alluvium. And where you've got post-settlement alluvium, obviously you're not going to find evidence of Aboriginal occupation. You might get the odd artefact, but it's been reworked from somewhere else, and what you would need to do is to find out where it came from. The three valleys that I've worked on are firstly Finances Creek. This is the road, the Great North Road comes down from Buckety first into the Wollombi Valley, and this is the Great North Road going through there over Finances Crossing. Some of the dates here are a little bit wrong that you've been given about the Great North Road. The first surveys were actually done back in about 1815, and for some reason, probably they wanted to build it in the right location, the Great North Road was actually surveyed, in some cases, 3-4 times a year, right through into the 1820s. So one of the reasons I started working here, I did the first lot of research that I was involved with in the McDonald Valley and literally just come over the hill. The reason I did that was the historical record here was great, and I wanted to look at the historical channel changes. Now, I'm not going to give you any information on that today because that's what I'm going to address you on next week. All that I want to talk about today is some of the longer term work where we've looked at the age of the sediments in the valley and where we've got what I call post-settlement alluvium. So we know from all these surveys that basically Finches Creek, the tributary going down to Finances Creek, did not have the channel in it that you see today. It was a totally flat valley floor, full of melaleucas and sedges and swamp, and had not been eroded. The date of that erosion was sometime between 1839 and 1867. And you can get that precise because there are about 40 surveys up to 1839. Not one of them shows a channel in Finances Creek. The first survey that does is Bidden, 2 surveys in 1867, if you can read that. And ever since 1867, there's been a channel present. The post-settlement alluvium takes 2 forms. From Finances Crossing down, you get this superficial sand sheet that is quite thick on the surface. So you won't find any Aboriginal artefacts in that. Upstream of Finances Crossing, there's a little floodplain in that small channel. That's all older than about 1839, and you won't find any Aboriginal artefacts in that either. So if you want to find any, you're going to have to go up to the high terrace, the higher area above the low floodplain on Finches Creek, and if you wanted to find any on Finances Creek below the crossing, you've got to get below that sand sheet. We've got a series of radiocarbon dates out of the Finances Creek valley fill, and basically below bed level, it's nearly 6,000 years old, and it's slowly filled up to the mud unit that underlies the sand, and we had a radiocarbon date on the surface of that at 220 years, and after that it was buried by the historical sand. Dairy Arm is a tributary of Wollombi Brook, and the junction's at Yalambie. It's about a 39.8 square kilometre catchment, so it's relatively big for Wollombi Brook. And basically you get the same distribution of post-settlement alluvium as you do on Wollombi Brook. So up the top you get post-settlement alluvium, which I've tried to show in the yellow colour, and that's with a low floodplain below a high terrace. That's all older than 1949. In this case it was the June 49 flood that caused the erosion. The sediment eroded from upstream was deposited right across the valley floor downstream, and I guess many of you will know Ned Thompson. And basically the road that used to go up Dairy Arm is now buried under sand, and all of Ned's Flat is also buried under sand, and that's quite a thick sand sheet. So if you wanted to look for any artefacts there, you'd need to go upstream of Old Arm, and that area, you'd look on the higher areas above the low floodplain. We've also done some work on some of the tributaries, and basically there isn't that much post-settlement alluvium on the tributaries. So there's a tiny little bit of deposition on that low floodplain, forming a thin superficial cap, but most of it is pre-European settlement in age, except for Cully's Arm and Olney Arm, where there is a small inset floodplain, but the rest of it is older than European settlement, so it's a candidate site for finding Aboriginal artefacts. Wollombi Brook itself, upstream of Wollombi, is much more complex. So, you do get sand over the floodplain from Willow Wing down to about, well, what I call Tucker's Flat, or where the Tuckers live. This is shown up the top by a very thin veneer of yellow. Once you get down to about Tucker's Flat, from there down to where the rock weirs start, there's essentially no post-European settlement on the surface, so that would be a prime candidate for looking for Aboriginal artefacts. Once you get below there, of course, we've had tremendous historical incision. That started in February 1927 and went through to about 1982 when the rock weirs were built, which stopped the upstream progression of incision. Around Murray's Run itself, you get quite a thick sand sequence below the main valley flat level, but the main valley flat level is composed of pre-European sediment. But as you get down below about the Finances Creek junction, you get this very thick sequence of sands right across the valley floor. So you can tell it's post-European settlement in age for many reasons, but it contains many European artefacts. There are buried fence posts, buried cow bones. In some cases, like at Yulambie, the convicts actually built a stone crossing across Wollombi Brook to go up to Dairy Arm. And about 15 years ago, that was exposed. It's been largely removed since by erosion. And that thick sheet of sand extends all the way down to Wattigan Creek, almost just over the road here. Once you get downstream of Wattigan, down to about halfway down to Milson's Arm, there is still post-settlement alluvium there, but now it's a very small inset feature to the main valley flat. So most of the valley flat is a prime candidate, and certainly below Milson's Arm there is no post-settlement alluvium. So again, that's a prime candidate for finding any evidence of Aboriginal occupation. Just to show you this thick sand sheet from Yulambie to Laguna, these are two photos of it. This one's taken opposite the Yengo Creek Road. This one's taken just up the valley from here at the Wattigan Creek Road. I hasten to add that none of this exists anymore. It's all been eroded to Kingdom Come. But at the time that we did this, you can see there was over 2 metres of post-settlement alluvium. It's all stratified sand. We obtained a series of radiocarbon dates below it. Immediately below that sand, and there were buried fence posts in there, we got a radiocarbon age of 220 years. In the middle of that unit, 1,270, and at the base of that unit, nearly 3,000 years. So I was speaking to someone before I started talking. I don't believe Laguna is an Aboriginal term. I think Laguna is a bastardisation of lagoons, and you go through all of the original historical surveys that were carried out here, and what was present from Wollombi Creek up to above Yulambie were a series of lagoons, or what were mapped as chain of ponds. And those chain of ponds produce very fine grain sediment, and this, and as you can see here, this dark unit below the sand, was a mud or a clay unit, which you can call a swamp sediment if you want, chain of ponds. but basically we've had a hell of a change since European settlement from very fine-grained floodplain sedimentation now to very coarse-grained sands. And the reason for that has been upstream incision in Murray's Run, which has eroded the valley floor, supplied the sand, which has then buried all of the floodplain immediately downstream. The last thing that I want to talk about is some work that I've been involved with at Paynes Crossing, looking at paleo floods. So paleo floods just means floods. The paleo means old or very old. So these are floods that occurred before European settlement. I'm not telling you anything, but the June 49 flood is the biggest historical flood that you've had here at Laguna and Wollombi. Well, we found evidence at Paynes Crossing basically on the Brickman's property, but it includes a couple of others as well, where there are at least 3 paleo floods or 3 floods that occurred before European settlement that are much bigger than the June 49 flood. And when I say much bigger, up to about 60-70% higher in peak instantaneous discharge. So the 49 flood is a very nice flood. Well, nice to a geomorphologist, not to a property owner. But in about the last 4,000 years, and I'll show you the evidence for that in a minute, we have had some significantly bigger events. Now, down around Paynes Crossing, you get basically 2 floodplains, a low floodplain and a high floodplain. They're composed of fine and very fine sand, which we call slack water deposits. And it's very easy to find the evidence of Aboriginal occupation. As I said, these are fine, very fine sand. How do you know you've got an occupational deposit? Well, straight away you run into gravels. So there are hearths or Aboriginal fireplaces, so they actually dug into those deposits, lined them with big sandstone boulders to retain the heat and do their cooking. There's charcoal from where the fire was, and also they sat round these hearths and in a community group, and they went napping. They started to manufacture stone implements, so there's a lot of flakes that are discards, and you can also find things like stone axes and the like. So within this fine and very fine sand, there's a whole heap of gravel that you would not expect to be there from deposition. This is just a schematic of the cross-section down there. So this is one of the high floodplains, a high floodplain, the low floodplain. Sometimes you find the high floodplain overlies this unit with the inverted V's. That's something that I've called older alluvium. We've got a series of radiocarbon dates on the older alluvium going back about 9,000 through to about 4,000 years ago. The slack water deposits on top range from about 3,500 through to 1,300 years ago. We've dated 2 of the 3 paleo flood deposits. You notice I've got a maximum age and a minimum age. The maximum age is the charcoal that was deposited with the flood deposits. Why do I call it a maximum age? Well, because the charcoal had to exist before it was transported by the flood and deposited. So it doesn't tell you when the flood occurred, it tells you the age of the charcoal, which was pre-existing at the time of the flood, hence it's a maximum age. The minimum age, this one we actually obtained out of an Aboriginal hearth. So the Aborigines came along, constructed the fireplace, cooked their meal and whatever, and then we've come along nearly 2,000 years later, excavated it and dated the age of their fire. So because it's post the flood, this is a minimum age. So this age must be less than that, it is. This age must be less than that, and it is. So from the stratigraphic sequencing, you can predict what the ages should be. They conform to that sequence. So I've got some faith in what the radiocarbon ages are telling us. These top 2 are just pits and trenches. We dug into them. This sort of U-shaped feature here is part of the Aboriginal hearth that the Aborigines excavated into those flood deposits. And there is evidence of their occupation with stone implements and hearthstones and the like. Your left, some of the implements we've got, which are mainly silkreed, indurated mudstone, and there is some quartz. Quartz usually doesn't produce that good artefacts. And of course there are plenty of sandstone caves and overhang shelters around here, where you not only get the paintings and the engravings that you've seen, but also, as Val Vinnican's work shows, at the floor of the cave you also get an occupational deposit, which if you go through the stratigraphy also can give you a nice record of settlement. What we found in Mangrove Creek is that basically there's been an intensification or a build-up of Aboriginal numbers over about the last 8,000 years. So most of the cave sites around here became archaeologically visible. You started to get archaeological deposit about 8,000 years ago, and as you come forward in time through to about 3,000 years, you get more and more artefacts and you get higher and higher sedimentation rates, which would suggest you had more and more occupation. Now, of course, I guess being a geomorphologist, I would argue that's blatantly obvious. And the reason for that is, where were the Aborigines? Well, ignoring a lot of the cultural and mythological significance of this area, most of them are on the seashore. The seashore was often the continental shelf. So 18,000 years ago, sea level was 120 metres lower, and that's where most of them would have been on estuarine environments getting fishing and shellfish and the like. Then as sea level rose, of course as the sea level kept inundating, the Aborigines had to start moving progressively further inland, and sea level reached its present level at about 7,000 years ago. So that's when they would have had to have moved into this area in larger numbers. That's when intensification happened. I'm giving you my hypothesis, I'm not necessarily sure that it's true. I've also done a little bit of work down around Warkworth. There is a hell of a lot of evidence of Aboriginal occupation along Lower Wollombi Brook and the Hunter. That's certainly where they obtained a lot of the source material for their stone implement manufacturer, and basically they put it in their shoulder bag and then brought it up here into the sandstone country, where usually those lithologies, those rock types don't exist, so they had to bring it with them, so you know it's exotic. It's been brought in by the Aborigines, and that's when they had the time, they started to manufacture some of the implements that they've used. I'm quite interested in the lower bit of Wollombi Brook because there's some of these source bordering sand dunes. What that means is that they're wind-blown sand deposits, and they take on a dune shape, just like you get on the ocean beaches. Excuse me. And there's been probably at least 2, if not 3 phases of dune building. It'd be nice to know, as in Lake Mungo in western New South Wales, if any of those sites were used as burial sites by Aborigines, because the sand is very easy to dig and it would have made a very good burial site. Also underneath the sand dune, there's a lot of these features which are a crude polygonal pattern with cracks. This is the older alluvium that I referred to before, and that polygonal cracking pattern has linings on the cracks, where I don't know what the conditions were like there, but I would suspect it was probably very cold and very dry, and that's why this material was cracking. And there's usually, although you can't see it in this, an orange or a red lining around those cracks, where it looks like there's preferential iron movement through there. The work of mine that I've been referring to here is basically 3 pieces of work. Last year, Mike Melville and I had the paper on the extreme left. In 2002, Carmel Peacock and I published the stuff on Payne's Crossing, and in 1986, Mike Melville and I published a paper just on Finances Creek. So that's where you can find some of that information if you're interested. On that note, I'll thank Mike Melville and Mike Samer for their help, and I'll throw it back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wayne. We now have a new new ways of recording sites and community involvement in this work. And I'd like to introduce Emeritus Professor John Fryer, who's a Bachelor of Surveying, PhD Professor of Surveying and Head of School of Engineering at the University of Newcastle, retired as Emeritus Professor for the last 5 years.
Thank you, Claude. Is that on? Yeah. Okay. My wife will kill me for saying this, but thank you very much. I like the fact you've all stayed here. You'll excuse me if I get a bit nervous. I've had 30 years of lecturing with students and I'm not used to a live audience. Okay, so what I would like to, I've been asked to talk to you about is, I'm basically a surveyor. Surveyors, you know, people who run around and make measurements like to think they're accurate. Surveyors can also measure off photographs, and it's measuring off photographs and video which is the expertise that I've had and that I've worked with. Now, I acknowledge a couple of people here. The chap, Jim Chandler, is from England, but he's been out here with me, and the other chap, Sabriel Harkin, is an Egyptian, but he works in Canada. And you'll see they play a part in some of this recording that I've been involved in. The old way of measuring is with a tape, and I'll show you some of that. The modern way is with what are called electronic instruments that surveyors use, or with laser scanners, but you can also use digital photographs and some very smart computer software. Now, there's no take-home exam or anything, so I'll be very gentle with the maths. Okay, let's just look at those current things. The traditional way of recording rock art is just directly tracing it, and we've seen examples of that today. This is actually, you'll see this sketch a few times, it's of that Waiame figure, and that was done in 1895, not 1995, 1895 by the surveyor that was first there at the site, a chap called Matthews, who recorded lots of things in this area. Then, as we move on, people can use more traditional surveying methods, where you can do some proper surveying rather than just sketching, where you take angles and things of the site and worry about it in 3D. And this word photogrammetry. Photogrammetry is where you take photographs and you make a plan of it. Just like all the maps you buy come from aerial photographs, you can do close-up photographs. And then this is where the technology has taken us to now. Laser scanners. You know, you're all familiar now with GPS. I can guarantee that in a few years you'll all be familiar with laser scanning. Laser scanning is sending out laser pulses very quickly and recording the shape of an object. Or you can use the photogrammetry, which is the taking of a couple of photos from different directions, and when you do that, you can put the digital images into the computer and it can generate things for you very quickly. Then you can put the photo back over the top and you come up with photorealism. And it looks like, and I've got an example for you, but it looks something like a cartoon type world. Okay, here's a picture. You saw John Clegg just before, you saw quite a bit of him actually, but here he is in those same sandals back in 1980 doing some recording. He's got a camera up a pole and there he is, probably at one of his sites at Ourimbah or somewhere. Here's yours truly and my mate from England on a step ladder, not too far up the road, recording something in 2004. Here is our friend Matthews, the surveyor, back in 1890. And he's taken feet and inches and all the dimensions, that's straight out of his fieldbook. So, I carried on a bit further. I put my surveying tape out and there's an engraving here of something which even John couldn't work out what it was. And I took some offsets and a bit of graph paper and that was it. And if you way to see these things, don't use the harsh chalk, but if you just gently sprinkle a bit of water on, which is rather natural, you can start to see the shapes come out and you can see some of my little surveying markers just laid on the rock there, very innocently. And then you come up with my sketch, and then you can see that nothing much happened in that 111 years, because what I'd done was not much different to Mr. Matthews in 1890. So, what else has happened? Well, in about the 1980s, going back about 30 years, people started to get serious with archaeology in Australia by taking pairs of photographs and making the plots. This is a chap from Melbourne University, Cliff Ogilvie, who John would know, and he's recording some axe grooves and things at a spot. He's up the ladder, he's taking a photo from the left side, a photo from the right side, and just like you see things in 3 dimensions because you've got 2 eyes, one on the left side of your head, one on the right side, so you can look at an angle as you look at things so you can see a depth. If you take 2 photographs, one from the left and one from the right, when you use them in an appropriate piece of equipment, you can see things in 3 dimensions. Now the problem with that is that you can come up with this marvellous diagram. Here's one of a cave, figures not dislike what we've seen earlier. The trouble with those sorts of plots, you've got a 3-dimensional piece of world, and you do all this surveying of it, and you come up with a piece of paper at the end. The piece of paper is flat. It doesn't really tell us an awful lot about what's happening inside the cave unless you have profiles and transits. These are awfully difficult for people to understand. And really, the plots are not user-friendly, but once you can get things in 3D, you can manipulate them around. And since 1980, we've got computers, and they can do this rotating things around. The maths is possible. Here's National Parks and Wildlife doing some recording, and this is an electronic surveying instrument. It's called a total station. It's sort of the upgraded version of the old theodolite. And what it does is it sends out a little infrared beam down and hits this prism. This chap's dragging this prism around the rock engraving, and so it measures the distance down and the difference in elevation, and it actually stores it in an onboard computer, and from that you can make a plot. And there's the plot. National Parks and Wildlife at Daly's Point, some engravings, and we may have seen some of those before. But that's done fairly painlessly. You can do that quite quickly. You just have to press the button every time somebody puts the little reflector prism in the spot. You press the button and you record the distance to it, and it works out where it is, and you can make a contour plan and make a plot. That's quite a bit of an advance on just using a tape measure. Laser scanning, this is up at the Finchley Trig site, which has been mentioned several times. I got this is a laser scanner, early version, 2002. Great big heavy thing. They've become much smaller. They're still incredibly expensive. That's probably $100,000 at the time. It sends out a pulse of light and brings it back again. It measures the distance down to where it's centred, and it works out the angle it was, and it does that very quickly. It does that these days 80,000 times a second. So it fires back and forwards like this, and wherever it hits, it works out where the spot is. So you can come up then with a picture like this. Now the one difficulty was, back in 2002 when we had a go at that, the difficulty was the instrument was only accurate to about 3 or 4 millimetres, is all you could measure the distance to. The grooves these days are not that good, so you barely pick them up. More modern laser scanners, it is possible to very accurately do it and probably pick things up to within about 1 or 2 millimetres. The problem is these are still awfully expensive, and there are not many in the country. A few survey firms have them. So let's give you an example. They were of rock art. Let's have a look at cave paintings where, again, the three-dimensional shape's important. This is the Biami cave that we've seen before, and I'm very glad that Garry Jones put up that picture where it looks out, because the view out is magnificent. That's the the picture, and as somebody's mentioned, it's 5 metres across. And this slide's from a different presentation, but it's worth recording that we've got the world's oldest art. It's unprotected, it's falling apart, it's inaccessible, not enjoyed by most people. And so I think, as Johnny Gravio mentioned, it behoves our generation and us to be the ones who are proactive in trying to at least record it. And nowadays, as I'll try and point out, it's possible to make, if you like, a virtual tour of it, to make like a video type presentation, but it's more than a video. It's got all the underlying three-dimensional measurements in it. And so that's what I guess my talk's about. Here's Wonnarua Cave again. There is Mr. Matthews, the surveyor, in 1890 or 1895. That's straight out of his field book. That's a copy of his field book page. And that's a current day photograph of it. So we can see how much it's degraded. The legs have disappeared roughly. Very interestingly, there is no graffiti that I can detect. All the things that he had on it in 1895 are still there. So somebody up there is looking after this site very well, but it will eventually wear out, or something catastrophic will happen, the water will come into it, etc. So, for a student exercise, and whilst my colleague from Loughborough University was out here, we went out in 2004, and this lady did it for her undergraduate thesis to make a 3D recording of it. So how do we do it? Very, very careful not to touch it in any way, shape or form. And you can do that with modern surveying instruments, not touch it, because you can send to particular points a little laser beam out and measure where that location is. It just hits it and bounces back. You can send out an infrared beam, which even hurts it less. The laser beam's so weak it doesn't even hurt your eyes. So we can record some points so we know where some points are. We can take photographs and, if you like, plaster one onto the other. So here's everybody taking a photograph. And then this is a composite of several photographs processed through the computer, and in about a day or two, it's possible to make a little sort of 3D movie of it, you know, very quickly, very roughly, sort of student-type quality. But you can see, well, we'll just run that again and just watch. You can see that in this bottom part, how it comes towards you and moves back. What we have there is, this is not a video. A video is where you get your camera and you video it and it's just all flat. This is actually, you can interrogate this three-dimensional model so that every point in it, you can find its coordinates. You can run profiles through it. That's why it rotates around and you get the feeling of depth. And that's what the important thing is that you can gain out of the, if you like, the advanced surveying techniques. Now, let me move on. We got the laser scanner up there as well. So we scanned the whole of this cave backwards and forwards. Now, as I said, there's a variety of these laser scanners. The only one we could get, we haven't got one at the university. They're too damn expensive. You need to be a private company, that one. So it was only accurate to about 15 or 20 millimetres. It's the sort that are used to monitor big slopes in open cut mines. They're far wall from 500 metres away. You can still get to within about 15 millimetres at any point. So we sprayed, if you like it, you know, several thousand points per second, back and forth along here. The instrument does it itself automatically, and you record X, Y, Z points. So we've got a three-dimensional surface. We then took multiple photographs and then joined the photographs together, and then you've got a complete 3D model and a great representation. And this is what we then produced. Hopefully this will come with sound.
not very well.
So all this is inside the computer as positions, little X, Y, Z coordinates in space, with a colour attached to each position. So you can analyse it in any way you like. You can put the colour back over it. You can rotate the thing around. So you can get a real feel for the three-dimensionality of the object. As this scan goes back and changes colour again, you'll notice a whole mesh. This is all built up of a series of little triangles. Each one of those little triangles, each one of those little points, I have a value for, an X, Y, Z value in space. And on each of those, you have the colour from the photographs. And so it's possible then to analyse this in any way you like. You have it in the computer. This is not just a video that's taken, this is a thing that's been built with a framework. And the surveying provides the framework and the photographs go over the top. It turns out you can do it with the laser scanner and the photographs, or just by photographs alone, as I'll show. Now, that little film clip, I think it's impressive. It took 3 months of a person dedicated to do it. And that was done in Canada with my friend Sabriel Harkin from Canada. And he got an honours student and had her for 3 months just working on that production. It's not something that's easy to do, but it's possible. Okay, how do we collect the data? Well, it starts off, I wear an old cricket hat, and there's the laser scanner, which gets the coordinates on the inside of the cave. Secondly, they just coordinates all over the cave. A few of the points we need to know more precisely because they're seen on the photographs. The trouble with the laser scanner is you can't point it at any one point. You just get this whole mess of points. Okay? So you have to locate some key features. And it turns out locating some key features, some points are good, some points are bad. The good points are where there's discontinuities in the rock. Because you have to then mesh together, this is what takes so long, the surveying instrument with the laser scan, this whole mesh of data, manipulate it around. Then you have to lay the photographs over the top, and you can use any sort of camera you like. And the camera that was used in that was only 2 megapixels. Not as good as your phone, probably. Your phone's probably got a better resolution these days. Okay, so it looks terrific, but it's actually not as easy as it seems. It's a difficult process, this recording. You know, when you're out in real life, it's really hard to get in the right spot to take a photograph. There's always a rock in the road or a tree or something else. There's obstacles. When you have to join lots of photographs together, it gets difficult because it's hard to work out what you're going to join them to. You need some other things in there. So sometimes you need to put some little surveying markers in that you can join pictures together with. When you have a laser scanner, there's all sorts of problems with them. So what I'm saying is there are techniques now that you can record things very well. You can record them in 3D. You can finish up making marvellous videos. You can use them for research, for analysis. But it's not straightforward, it's not easy. I won't go into it, but there's whole lots of difficulties in joining bits and pieces together. And cheap ones, there's always problems. The big problem with the laser scanner is the portability. We took it to another cave. Here's 2 guys carrying it, but what you can't see are the other 2 guys carrying the 2 car batteries that they needed to drive. And this is about 3 or 4 kilometres from the car at this stage. Of course, that's why I work with photographs. The old camera's a lot lighter. Okay, now let's try and put what's been happening in England very recently into the context of perhaps this community. very true, very real. In the last 2 years, and maybe 2.5 to 3, in England, 30 volunteers were taught how to go out and take photographs and use some simple surveying, just photographs. They're not doing any of that laser scanning. 1,500 rock art sites in the north of England were imaged by the group of volunteers, who you'll see in a minute, in about 18 months. Some of the people got so excited they wanted to do the image processing on the computer, the hard bit themselves. And potentially they now have this amazingly great 3D virtual library for the north of England. How this all happened was that English Heritage decided they wanted to record some of the rock art for exactly the same reason we should. People walk over it, people will drive bulldozers over it, it's getting old, it's wearing out, so they wanted to record it. They figured out they could afford English Heritage, which is a bit like National Parks equivalent, let's say, about 5 sites they could go out with a laser scanner and afford to do. My colleague convinced them that if he taught some really keen amateurs, they could go out there, and that's exactly what they did with simple cameras and use these sorts of techniques, and they have now done 1,500 sites have been recorded in England in 18 months. So, how did they do it? Well, that was the traditional way with the theodolite. Now, I've borrowed other people's slides here, but as you probably read in the newspapers, we're very good at plagiarism at Newcastle. So that's the traditional way. There's my mate Jim up there with a target and a theodolite. But to simplify the work in England, this is all that's been done. They have something with a right angle in it, another piece with a right angle. They sometimes like to stand and stick up vertical, so you've got 3 axes, X, Y and Z, and they put a colour chart. Now most of their rock art is on small rocks, okay, like this, as you'll see. So, oops, English examples. There we are. There's the, spiral or circle or whatever you like to call it. It's photographed. You come up with it's photographed from the left-hand side and the right-hand side. It's put into the computer as digital images, and it comes up then as a 3D model, and then that 3D model can be manipulated around. And it's much easier if you do it off one pair of photos. The Wyoming rock shelter, because it's so long, about 25, 30 metres long, we had lots of photographs that had to be joined together. That's the difficulty. I moved it across the screen. Okay, here are other examples, and this one, and this is just plagiarising again their slideshow. This site is unique, but a great display potential. Just as the Finchley track's hard to get up to and go to, you could, out the front here presumably, make a replica of it and make it like this, a museum replica. There's the thing in actual life, that's it there. If I had been able to plagiarise their slides completely, like clicked in here, we'd have had a little movie of it as well, but I couldn't do that. So that was the size. It's only a 2 by 4 metre surface, and it's grooves inside grooves. I don't know anything about it. Let's say it's a Celtic pattern. There are some issues to consider about getting the community involved with this. The first is you get enthusiastic amateurs. I ask you to have a close look at these, and it's like a collection of village idiots. This guy is desperate to get his face in the photograph of the rock as well, alright? Everybody wants to get in the act. But these are the guys that we've got some right angles, we've got something vertical, we've got some colour on there, we've got some scale because we know the distance. So all we need to do with this ancient rock is take a photograph from about here and then about here and put the digital images into the computer, and it will make the 3D image. And so there's a left photo and a right photo, and it'll come up with the 3D image. But you've got to think twice about who's going to be on your community team. Right? A little bit of vetting to go on. So let's just look at a local example where we did some of this. Now, this is it, as Garry Jones says, you sit down and have lunch, You don't know you're sitting on something. It's there. If you look closely, you can just see the raised arm there. Okay, or the boomerang perhaps, and then there's a head here somewhere. It's really hard to see. You go there on a wet day, it's really easy to see. Right? Same thing, no tricks. There's the marks. So we take a left photo and we take a right photo. Like that. I'm very good at holding the ladder. There's my mate up the ladder. By the way, there's the trackers just 20 metres away or less. So this is it here. You can see the size of it. We did a little bit of surveying to locate accurately so we could scale it. These little surveying marks which we just laid on the ground and picked up again later. The control, for the control you can easily use a scale bar, which is just a ruler, or you can use some targets, and in that case we use the targets. There's the surveying instrument which we used to just measure where the targets were. We could have used the tape measure or the road killing it. I can show a bit more on that in a moment, I think it comes up. But I'm just saying, it's not just taking the photographs, these are some of the computer packages involved. And that's the other thing, the software is expensive. The software is hellishly expensive. The software that does the image correlation for this is $28,000. This one's about 15 grand, but they won't even give you a quote most of the time. So it's not your, Bill Gates, you buy it for $950 stuff. This is sort of expensive gear, and there's a lot of smarts in the software. But the point is, it's possible. But just before you get too enthusiastic, if you're going to do this, you're going to need a grant. I can assure you. Okay. So this is again just taking those two photographs, fiddling around, and you can make a 3D rotated around. And it zooms in, zooms out. Now it's all a bit silly, but I'm just trying to point out to you that it's possible to do. And what we've done, we've made from the two photographs only, you can get all those coordinates of those points, put the image on the coordinates, do a bit of image processing, and come up with the computerised 3D model. Okay, conclusions. You can get great results for recording rock art with some surveying and photographs taken with simple digital cameras and smart software. The digital cameras these days that you need are of the $100 variety. You don't need some Canon XEOS, something special. You just need the Joyce Main Special for the week, as long as it's got about 6 or 8 megapixels. It's the software that does the smart stuff. You need the scale bar and something that looks so you know which way is left, right and up in the picture. You can use a laser scanner, but the gear is really expensive and it's not portable. It's portable around the city when you've got a car, but it's not portable when you're in the bush. Both methods will give you results from about 1mm to 20mm, and of course the question is, what accuracy do you need? Well, most people would say, oh, we don't need a millimetre. The trouble is, once you get to about 10mm or so and bits don't fit, people look at it and say, oh, that's not very good. So people are expecting a lot of things, so you need it probably more accurate than anybody can use, just so it looks good. And poor results, people don't like it. So here's another site down the road, a fraction, and I don't know if you've been here, I've been fortunate to be here, and I'll just show you there are some amazing sites in this area, all waiting to be recorded. And just look at the hand stencils on this and the way this rock, which you come in under, curves right around, and it curves right around like that, curves around, goes away. So, we just have some of the best sites in the world, but they're not recorded. So, the real problem is to show and convince everybody what can be done. Thank you.
we don't have to go very far to get educated, do we? We're right here in our library. We actually happen to live inside all of this rock art. The most amazing examples of very old art. Somebody is yet to talk about how it dates back, but not at this stage. One of the things that I'd like to Wayne had spoken about some dates, of course. One of the things that I would like to point out is that the rock art is not just in national parks or in forests. It exists on private properties also. And that's one of the reasons as to why this meeting was brought together, so that the owners of the property, the people who are residing on the properties with the art, can have an idea now that it's up to us to do something about it as a community, to try to protect it. And with the help that we've had today, through the likes of all the gentlemen who have talked to us, but especially Garry Jones, who's been at this for such a long time and trying to record it. If you do have any information that you'd like to find out about, apart from the discussion that we might open up for the group now, just email the Arts Council at Wollombi. Actually, that's it, artscouncil@wollombi.org. And we'll forward that on to Garry, and he'll forward it on to other persons who can handle the inquiry. But for the moment, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. However, it's slated on here that we open up for a discussion. Any questions at all?
Is there a date determined for the rock art around Fletcher?
I'm not the one to answer that. Who could answer that?
Is there a date for the rock art? Yeah. International Festival has been arguing decades. There is no right to safety and gravity. That's what keeps cave art, there is a guy called Alan Watchman and others who Paul Gordon actually took him out there in 1994 or 5, and this guy gets tiny amounts of pigment, but he's preferred not to touch the actual painting. So we took him to sites where these paintings had powdered into little sort of leeches, so that you sort of, like that last one John showed, it's got those sort of curves. And he said, yeah, that'd be ideal because I'd be able to get, he only needs about 2 match sheets of this stuff, and they do thermoluminescence and blah blah. Don't ask me. I've been in the Smithsonian watching a woman with this huge machine where they do it. That stuff can be, that's when the pigment, anyway, they can date the pigment when it's exposed to, what is it, John, oxygen to the atmosphere? Light, light. Sunlight, yeah, sunlight. But with the engravings, you've got to bear in mind too, so they've been regrouped. We know some of the really old ones at important places like Finchley. The width of the grooves and the weathering of the punches suggest that they're older than others, like that one I showed at the Gurringai Club, which is quite a narrow groove. What seems to happen, the deeper the groove and the softer it gets, and I showed you some that are, remember that one I showed like that? There is no way you can see that in the paint, even with water structure, maybe grey, but no, there's no dates. Sorry, or we can go on at carbon deposits. But my argument, for example, to add to that interesting stuff Wayne told us about the 8,000 years and the sea level being where it was, and that is important. But given the nature of Yengo country, my feeling is that you won't find many carbon deposits in caves. People chose to come here at a time, they knew what the weather was going to be like, they didn't have to be in cave. Alright? Chances are that the date that Margaret Clegg gave me for Little Hunter, 20,000 years. That's sort of about as brave as I'm about, as I'm prepared to go. We hear all sorts of outlandish dates, but I think we will get older dates, and I think we will get older dates, maybe not in my lifetime, but out in Yengo country. Joe McDonald got a date of 6,000?
Yeah, I think that in some of the caves that live around Yengo, the caves, people have dug them in, put 7 stored up in them, managed to go down, and they've done some analysis. And I think of the order of 6,000 years is what they say was sort of buried down under the sediments, now dropped down in the bottom of the cave. All that would jive with what Wayne said, that the sea level in Australia is 100 metres lower than it was 20,000 years ago, and slowly rose up, and as it rose up, people would street into it. But when the sea level was level, was down, it meant that they were fishing out between 20 and 60 miles off the coast at the moment. That's where the river was. That's where the river was. So as it rose up, they retreated back, and so it retreated to its normal level. 8,000 years ago, that jives with the 6,000-year-old dates in the cave.
Any other questions?
Is there going to be some prescribed program to protect them, these sites? You've got on property, is there somebody who's going to tell us what we should be doing or to protect them for the future?
Well, I suggest that you contact Garry Jones about that.
You've got the legislative authority, national parks, and persons.
On private property, are we talking?
Hi, my name's Jeff Fletcher, I'm the ranger for Yengo. Give him the mic, Claude. Knowledge. Hey, give him the microphone. With National Parks, we've got a number of specialists. We've got 2 sites officers that look after the Sydney region. That's Brad Walsh, and we've got Glenn Morris, who's initiated there from north of the Hunter Gig. And we've also got a rock art conservator, and he's been all over Australia conserving sites and also all over France looking at sites over there, and he's well renowned throughout the world for his work. And he does a lot of work on conserving sites, but they're very fragile environments, and you can put artificial material onto it, but in a lot of cases that can cause damage to the sites themselves. They can stick together and suddenly will just lift away after many years. A lot of the times the best thing to do is to leave it alone. I've heard that there are a few things they can do. It depends on the site themselves, because there's salt coming through, and you can do, they've done in the past, like you've got a lot of salt coming through the rock, and they've used like a wash, a water wash, and it's removed a lot of the salt from the rock itself. And there's some of the things he's the expert at. And if you've got sites, then notice that they're flaking away. I'm sure, contact Dave Lambert is his name, and he could provide some advice through Garry and so on. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Claude,
Yes.
what does the Aboriginal community think about it? I mean, there's no sort of constituent from the Aboriginal community. What do they think about the preservation of their art?
Les Atkinson. I'm Vice President of the Hunter Aboriginal Education Consultancy Group, been invited down here. We think the preservation, not only for a cultural perspective, but from an educational perspective, that's for everybody. If we can get these sites preserved, marked down with these people's help, then it becomes not only keeping our culture alive and well, but also enriching the rest of the community. You live here in the most beautiful country in the world. This is our country, our creator is our country. We believe this is our sacred land. But you live on that, and we respect that also.
Should, in sort of conserving Aboriginal rock art, shouldn't there be Aboriginal people sort of involved in...
there will be. If Uncle Paul Gordon would have been here, would have been able to get a much better perspective. That Arthur's here too? Or has Arthur just left? Yeah, Arthur's here from the Cooper Elders. You want to say something, Arthur? Come on, mate. Oh, my brother.
My perspective, protect, look after, care, not just about the Aboriginal culture and heritage. And that doesn't mean to overkill with love. We can go both ways. We can love it to death, or we can protect. And that goes just not for Aboriginal community, like for the cultural side, but for everybody else's needs too. So there are, I'm going to go this way, there are appropriate places for people to go, and there are inappropriate places for people to go in the cultural side. Some of our places have been opened up through national parks and government agencies. That's fine. We can look after those and we can try and bring those back together to what they used to be. We've seen the damage that's been caused through neglect, accidental or otherwise. So we've just got to try and work together and get the best results out of all this. So that's about all I can say at this stage.
I'd like to ask after a question you're talking about appropriate and inappropriate. Would some Aboriginal people feel a bit bad about having some of these in public view? Are there some that have deep meaning that maybe you would like to have in public view?
You may, because I'm a little bit emotional about this side of things, but I'll let Claude handle that one.
I was told many years ago by Paul Gordon not to go to Barrago.
Not to go.
To Barrago, Devil's Rock as it's known, because it was a man site basically, and not a good site to go to anyway, unless you're invited to go. When the area was taken over by National Parks had advertising to go there, pictures of it. There's a misinformation that's happened. It's a bureaucratic thing that's happened, and it just happens to happen now in our bureaucracies. Individuals in national parks and in government may not really want that to happen, but it just does happen. So what we've got to try and come to terms with is the fact that if we don't do something about protecting all of these sites around here ourselves, what's going to happen to it? It is a library. We're going to be responsible for the ruination of this library, destroying it, unless we take some action now ourselves. It's up to the community to do it, and to go to the individuals who have the heart and care about it, and hopefully the bureaucratic organisations, councils, through developers, mining, all the different applications that come in with the increase in population, just happen to tourism. I mean, it's just huge. We need to understand that we need to do something to protect this valuable information. If it was in Lascaux, if we were in Lascaux, which has been aged at a maximum of 13,000 years, they've recreated a whole new different area for people to go to in Moscow. It looks like the same thing you're going walking into, but at least the original cave paintings.
But you're not allowed to go in a lot of those original, in those caves.
Some of them here, I understand from... There are some here also that I understand that one shouldn't go to anyway unless you're part of the culture, and I think we should respect that personally.
Yeah, I've basically been as the ranger for Yengo National Park for probably about 8 years now, so I'm getting on 10. And since I came here, there was the government body was promoting sites and so on. And since talking to guys like Arthur and a lot of people around here, there was a lot of concern about damage to site, Burragurra, or Devil's Rock, some people refer to it as. And since that time, I used to go out to a lot of land councils and ask about information. And we'd go out and have a look at something, and we'd have 10 people on board going to have a look at it. Next thing they would take me off somewhere else, and there'd only end up being one person coming along. And from there, I said, this is a really good thing. We need to get everyone around the table. And we set up a co-management committee, which has got members of land councils and different community groups on that committee, and we look at protection of sites. And that's been happening for the very last 5 years now. And you remember up at Finchley, there used to be a boardwalk, and everyone thought that was posing on the site, taking away the significance of the site. Through that committee, we removed the boardwalk, and we put up some signs up there to give education about the site, and also there was a sign up there telling you the penalties, not to go over it with chalk and that sort of thing. Devil's Rock, or Burragurra, is another issue. Because of the significance of that site, they don't want anyone going there, and there is talk at the moment of putting a gate to prevent access to that site because of its significance. And at one of the co-management committee meetings, they said to put a sign up, and they've reversed that now because they see that as encouraging people there. But they put it there and said it was a men's site, so that women wouldn't go there, but did the opposite. People just driving down there, going on a full drive trip, come across it and say, oh, let's go up there. And at the moment, they're looking at removing that sign and having a sign further up the track that it's not visible from the car park area, and a sign saying giving you the penalties. And if you go up here, the parents should supervise their kids, because the kids go up there, start getting axe grinding grooves, and start making spears, rubbing rocks, putting their initials everywhere, and when yeah, all sorts of things. Unfortunately, a lot of those sites are all in four-wheel drive magazines. They're in guidebooks for four-wheel driving, camping magazines, and so it's well known. People used to visit it even before it was National Park, and we just have to control it. And we're slowly getting there, and hopefully, with all of you, we can put some management actions in place to, and hope. I think we're getting there, and see where the future brings us. It's like Mount Yengo. You probably don't all know that Mount Yengo has just been declared the largest Aboriginal place in New South Wales, and we've got key access to that area, and so it's very restricted access into there, so we don't get Joe Blow and four-wheel drives and motorbikes whizzing around all over the place. So whoever goes in there, we know who's going in there, we've given them the key, so if there's any damage to anything, we know who to attend.
Can I just respond to that one, please, just a quick one? Just on Burragurra and Devil's Rock, it's inappropriate for people to go there as a whole, guys. And that's right from here. It's inappropriate for people to go there, okay? As far as Mount Yengo itself, it's our little river. It's sacred. People should not go there. That's up the mountain itself. What's down at the homestead, that's a different kettle of fish. So I'm just letting that information out there. They're sacred places, and if you don't say it, people won't understand. There's places appropriate to go to, and there's inappropriate places to go to. I'll let it go at that.
As part of that, we've got the Aboriginal Place Declaration. That'll be coming up in the middle of April, and there'll be celebrations occurring. Laguna will know about it, for sure, because I think we're trying to hold celebrations here. And there will be a visit to the homestead, but there won't be tours up onto the mountain because of the significance of the site. So, realistic.
Yeah, I'm going to put it way down. Wonder why. Big leprechaun. I want to add to what Arthur said and to what we heard from National Parks, in that an old man came here in the early 90s. He was at the corroboree, and his name was Uncle Lenny De Silva. In 1993, he was awarded an honorary doctorate from the University of Newcastle for his contributions to the rejuvenation of Aboriginal culture in Eastern Australia. He was a true and important friend of mine. He understood from the very first time we met that my heart was in that country, as his heart was in that country. It was he who, at a meeting at Buckety in 1991, said, "I want a locked gate put at the Little Boree turn-off on Boree Track. I do not want anyone going down there who shouldn't." Okay, if they walk in, they're going to walk in anyway, they're not going to stop people, but you've got to stop the visitation. I have not been to Barragara since 1992 in his company. It breaks my heart. I will not go there ever again in my lifetime. With the Finchley site, Uncle Lenny also said to National Parks and to the local Aboriginal land councils that he wanted the road that runs right beside it removed and re-landscaped and the new road put on the eastern side of the ridge. Again, in time, people will find their way to the site, maybe with a little walking trail, etc. And maybe there could be some appropriate signage put wherever. But it is my belief that within the next 50 years, that site will be gone, because between 1976 and 1988, when the National Parks was declared, there had been a certain amount of vandalism to that site. But in the time since, there has been twice, if not 3 or 4 times, the damage to that site. That site will be gone. And once it's gone, you'll never get it back. As to restoration and conservation of sites and arguments about regrooving and all of that, my attitude to it is, I'm sure, close to what Uncle Lenny believed. Leave it alone. Completely. Don't do anything. Record what we can. Put it into databases that might have restricted access for appropriate people, as Arthur has suggested, by all means. Indeed, Paul Gordon, I collated all my stuff, and with Paul Gordon we lodged it at the Institute of Aboriginal Studies in Canberra in 1994. That included, I'm talking hundreds of sites. We gave them everything, but we didn't even give them map references for some stuff. And when the curator down there, or the guy in charge of the slide library, said, "Wait a minute, you haven't given us map references," Paul said, "The people who need to know, know." Finished. They accepted it, which was wonderful. I mean, it's gone into the highest classifications, which you would expect. But there are in place those sorts of, you see, it's there. My question, I guess, is really how the legislative authority, National Parks, can work with the community, how you can work together and with the Gurri community and the informed Gurri community. So we're talking about at least 3 forces, like those of us who are citizens, those who are the responsible authorities, and those who are the traditional authorities. And I don't think it's such a big hurdle, actually. I think there's goodwill, because we all want it protected. That's basically my understanding.
Any other questions? Well, that being the case, thank you all very much for coming, and thank you to all the speakers who have presented and let's do something.